How's it going, everyone? And welcome to a probably abridged episode of No Excuses with your favorite show hosts, Still.
And Volacel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and games commentary for the week until such as a time as the sky above Aristeal falls in, which I guess it is wont to do this time of year.
Yeah, once every half decade or so, 5 to 10 years, we get a nasty snow or ice storm, and the snowstorms, they'll knock the power out for a couple hours, sometimes 6 or 7. Not that big of a deal. The ice storms are more something to worry about a bit more because our infrastructure ain't set to handle that crap at all. Because it just usually doesn't get cold enough for that to happen down here. And when it rains and then transitions into freezing rain, and you get ice buildup, and they're saying we're going to get an inch or more of ice, that stuff's going to build up on trees. It's gonna pull them over on top of power lines. It's gonna build up on the power lines themselves, and may cause some of the poles to pop. Like it's just not good. Bad juju all around. So that, according to the weather tracker, is starting anytime in the next hour where I live. Um, it will take a brief break after the first hour of it, or an hour and a half, and then resume and then continue through the night, getting worse and worse as time goes on. So it is currently 9:30. When it hits 11:30, we are playing with ice on whether or not the show will stay online if we make it through the first little bit or batch.
This is all very contingent on the weathermen knowing what they're talking about.
Yeah, and like I told Vol, they're about as accurate as you know calling double Ricci on 13 orphans and getting an Ipatsu. As in, it's not happening, and why would you do that?
Anyway, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email noexcusesvtw@gmail.com. You can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in the Discord server, the best place to communicate with the show hosts and other listeners to the show, and you can do so by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the archive on YouTube.
Yes, indeed. So, I do not have anything in the gacha space to talk about this week at all. Um, but we'll see where we go. Paul, we'll start with your week.
Right, let's see. Okay, so in some sense, the big thing for me this week was I decided I will put Blue Archive on hiatus because realistically, I've just been going through the motions on it. And the only time I'm really focused on it is when there's new story. So I'll probably demote it to sort of like log in once a week and check if there's been any new story deployed and then read the story. Because since now that they've like fully transitioned over to every storyline now has characters provided for all the combat segments, and the combat segments are oftentimes in the more high production value events presented in a more cinematic way. Um, there's no need to scramble to keep up the way they used to be, because it used to be that initially they would have the characters provided and the main story, and then they would occasionally throw you a curveball um, and require you to use your own, aka the adult card situations. But the events always required that you have your own team, and occasionally they could be quite challenging for a not particularly mature account. But nowadays, all of the event stories also have all the characters provided, so I don't really need to worry about keeping my account built up or whatever. Um, as a result, I've decided to put it on hiatus because I'm not investing the sort of time required to mold over clearing raids and that. Once upon a time, I did, but I haven't been doing that lately. So it's sort of like it's not a big block of time that I invest in it. It's like 20 minutes a day or something, but that's 20 minutes a day that's really not returning anything.
That's 20 minutes a day plus events and event story, and event grinding if you decide to do it. All that's
Yeah,
It's more than just dailies you get back when you drop a gacha.
but yeah. At any rate, I'm not like dropping it like for goodsies, but I will probably only do sort of like the minimum things to enjoy enjoy it, basically enjoy it as a visual novel that it has periodical updates rather than attempting to keep up with the game. I also have a gargantuan stash of pyros. Like I rolled both of the new Wild Hunt characters just cause, and I still have 140,000 left over. So yeah, I'm just not that worried about it. So that's going to go on the back burner, which will free up a bit of time, which I'm sure I will immediately fill in with something else because that's just how I roll. That being the case, there's still a huge gulf of time which would normally be spent doing Star Rail stuff that is not happening because Star Rail is not happening at the moment. But yeah, that's just the way of things in the current state. They have been surprisingly diligent at keeping what they are presently doing quite well under wraps. The leak scene has basically dried up to nothing at this point, which just goes to show how artificial it always was. I think that most people were operating under that assumption to begin with, but it's sort of interesting to see it play out in the sort of the alternate form where it's like manifest to everybody now exactly what was going on because nobody has any leaks anymore. So there's not really anything to say about that. As far as Genshin is concerned, like I haven't really done any of the stories other than the main story lately. Haven't had the time to sit down and focus on it. There are quite a few of them, but I haven't really touched it. It's just it requires quite a bit of sit down time. I've sort of like nominally finished a Columbina build, but it's a Columbina build based on the premise of building her the way I would build Lauma. So basically, she's incompatible with my current Luna Bloom team. So it's not all that useful in some sense. But that's just because I have those pieces floating around already, where I don't have the pieces required to actually integrate her with the Nefer team. But I don't know if I really want to, since I've got that team kind of working right now, and it works just fine with Ino, and Ino is carrying the set that you would normally give to Nahida, rather than the set that you would normally expect to see on her. And that's simply because I don't want to put Nahida in that team, because Nahida's healing is not enough to keep that team upright. What I need to happen is to not get one shot every time Nefer gets caught out of position. I spent some time fighting the new, whatchamacallit, the new world boss thing that is going to drop parts that are needed by Zubai. And yes, you can, if you pay a lot of freaking attention, not die using Nahida as your main healer. However, it's not really the way it's supposed to be done. I mean, or rather, it is the way it's supposed to be done, but I'm not interested in being that focused and autistic on Genshin combat as to be able to perfect dodge through fights against enemies using a team with prototype Amber as the healer. So yeah, how about instead of that? No, I'll just keep using Sitlali because frankly it works better for smoothness of runs when you're farming, because the anti-interrupt of having a shield is just more valuable than being able to heal back damage after you've been downed by something. But my goodness, these things are so aggressive. But the the upshot of all that is that Columbine is still functionally useless to me unless I just play her in a gimmick team, which I have been doing. It's sort of like I'm going to to make Yomiko great again by relying on Columbina to make her relevant. And she still doesn't perform well because Yomiko's always been a bad character. But at least lunar reactions are a thing that allows you to interact with situations where you are forced to use lunar reactions or forced to use electrocharge in any capacity, really.
See Cactus.
I'm not a fan of Cactus. Cactus is the worst ever. But so Genshin hasn't really been going anywhere of note.
Oh.
I have done a couple of world quests, but I only did sort of like relatively short ones that I did kind of on accident.
Like you mean like the tower one and the one in the forest?
Yeah.
Those are the
And
two
I
I
did.
did.
The thing is that some of them are really good. Like they're just done really well, and there's good environmental storytelling. There's good sort of like a thread going through the area. Like everything comes back to this guy called Dr. Rotwang, which I think is a really funny name, but he's called various things by various different characters, but through the course of a whole pile of different world quests, you gradually conclude that there's this one sort of figure in the background of the area throughout its history who's causing all of the problems. And like I did this one quest which all takes place in an underground bunker. And this bunker was presented as a sort of after the end prepper post-apocalypse bunker thing. And they conned a whole bunch of people into going into it. And it turned out that it was just a scam that was run by this guy all along because he wanted experimental subjects and he needed them to be desperate.
I
But
see.
there's and you play. You can't use any of your regular abilities. You play as an unarmed traveler throughout the entire thing, and basically solve problems and win fights by using Kuvaki to flick things around. But it's a sort of a really interesting little world quest. So yeah, there's some good content in there. I just haven't sat down to consume a lot of it. I don't know whether they're going to conclude that storyline in this patch or whether it'll come in a later patch. But yeah, it's been pretty entertaining. But yeah, I just needed to devote a bit more time to it. Sometimes when you jump, you just disappear into space, and then I have to wait for you to appear again before I can work out where you've gone.
There's patch.
But yeah, ZZZ's just doing its thing. Angels of Delusion sort of mini event at the moment. I was like more or less totally disinterested in the Angels of Delusion thing because I thought that it's just going to be, a bunch of gimmick characters for the cooldown from the slightly more intensive storyline that they were trying to tell. But then you have your little, you functionally go on dates with each of the characters type of thing to various locales. And you have the one that you go on with Nangongyu. And you realize that she's got massive scarring on her back, and the wings that she has are not costume pieces, they're actually implanted into her flesh. And it's like, what the hell?
Girlfriend did
I
not
thought
have
the
a good
idols are
time.
supposed to be the not intense part of the story. But everybody in New Eridu appears to be some sort of military experiment or something, I guess.
Well, I mean, when you're the last city on Earth when an apocalypse is going on, odds are better than average.
But yeah, so I don't know what the hell is wrong with her, but yeah, she's like got wings implanted in her for some reason instead of like I thought it was it's just a costume piece, right? So Sinner has like wings on her backpack or whatever. That's not strange. And Arya's like secretly, but everybody knows it, is the robot. And Nagonyu's just the other one that we don't know much about. But no, there's just like this enormous scar on her back. And she's
Well,
oddly enough not attempting to conceal it at all.
yeah. Well, normally I would I would twig to a character being named Ari, being like, oh, they jacked my name again. That's okay. Plenty of Aris. Wait a minute. There's two Aris in this group. There's Ari and Aria standing right next to each other.
Yeah, I don't know why they made that decision. I mean, it was made very late in the piece. She wasn't called Aria until China decided to China. They all had Japanese names originally because they were supposed to be like a Japanese idol group. But yeah, so they got renamed late in the process. But yeah, it's still a bit of an odd decision. But yeah, anyway, there's not really much else going on in that game right now, but we must be winding down towards the end of that patch cycle at this point, I would presume. It's not. I don't think there's any major events left. I can't think of any anyway. And we've who are the whatchamacallits? Who else is they're on the triple banner thing now, which I'm not rolling on because I don't need to. I need to hoard polychrome instead because it cost me everything to get Yeshiguang, who in the end I just don't really like that much, and I blame her writing, to be totally honest. I think it's just not very compelling compared to what it could have been.
Places to find an enemy.
I'm stuck in a tree. Where are you going?
And,
I need to get out of this tree somehow.
Teleported away, different spot because I couldn't find any enemies in that area. Bot? No, that's
But, yeah, so not much to talk about in ZZZ. So the 3 Hoyo gachas have been mostly relatively quiet. The leak scene appears to have just clammed up for all 3, to be totally honest. There are still things trickling out for Genshin, but there's not a lot of agreement on what things are true and what things are not. So some of them are probably just, people talking out their backside. It's hard to say what things will stick and what won't. And there is, it's sort of like, I don't think most people are really putting 2 and 2 together, but it's been very, very obvious to me based on the sort of the natural drift in my feed that as much as there are certain contingents of fans that think Varka is the best thing since sliced bread, the actual sort of like revealed preference tier of excitement for it is non-existent. Nobody gives a shit that Varka is coming out. People keep talking about, oh my goodness, we've been waiting 5 years for Varka. No, you haven't. Number one, you haven't been waiting 5 years for Varka. Number two, still nobody is waiting for Varka. Nobody cares about Varka. I'm sorry. There's just not that many of those people.
like there's a difference between, oh, I remember this guy they set up eons ago when I first started the game. It's cool that they're bringing him back in. You haven't been waiting for him to become playable. I could understand. Oh, I'm excited to see this character that got mentioned way back when I very first started playing finally becoming playable, and he looks kind of cool, and I like that. That would be a reasonable, understandable thing. Nobody from a name drop is waiting on a character from the point of name drop.
Yeah, what's more, he's not a waifu, so like there is this belief amongst a certain portion of the quote community unquote that Genshin is like a 50-50 gender split player base, but it's not. It's not even close. It is the most balanced, but by most balanced we mean 70-30.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'd call it 70.
Oh, there's data on it, but but it is sort of like self-selecting data based on people who classify themselves as fans. So if you're talking about people who actually invest in playing the game, that's a different question entirely. But it's not like, I think the most extreme ones outside of like Brown Dust and Snowbreak is
Nikkei.
Blue Archive, I believe. No, Blue Archive is much more extreme than Nikkei. Nikkei's sort of like 80-20. Blue Archive is sort of like 95-5. Provided you don't count cosplayers.
Yeah, I never count the cause thoughts.
But yeah, Blue Archive is really extreme for some reason. It's basically 101 minus 1 for like Snowbreak, but Snowbreak is sus. Like there is, you couldn't put a cigarette paper between Snowbreak and pornography in the latest updates, because occasionally I see people referring to them and putting like censored stuff on Twitter, and yeah, that you can't slip a cigarette paper between it and pornography.
Yeah.
That you need somebody to tell you that it's not actually explicit, because you can't tell by looking.
There's this one. I think it's from Brown Dust that gets CG that gets used as a meme on YouTube videos a lot. That I think is funny every time it pops up because it's totally out of context. It's just this random big booby girl is twirling scissors with some dude side up on the ground, and she accidentally cuts her own outfit, and it explodes just carefully enough not to reveal anything, and she makes a really funny squeaky noise.
I
But
see.
that's as
I
much
think
as
I vaguely know what you're talking about. I might have seen it before, but yeah, I'm not an expert on those incredibly lewd gachas. Like people classify Blue Archive along with them, and I don't think that's fair. Like Blue Archive has Hanako and Koharu for a reason.
Yeah, well,
If it was actually legit as lewd as all that, you couldn't make that gag work.
yeah, like Hanako doesn't work if the game is a lewd game. Hanako works because the game. She is Hanako.
Because the game is not the game that Koharu thinks it is. But yeah,
Oh no! Dang
so
it.
yeah, there's a lot of people who are trying to convince everybody that Vaka's the most important thing to be added to the game ever, but nobody genuinely cares. And he doesn't seem very good either. Like his animations are really underwhelming. His his output seems like it could be in theory okay, but it requires you to play a team full of characters who aren't like, they're just not exactly the top of the pops. It's not going to shake the meta in any way. The meta's still going to be built around Columbina and Nefa and Flynn's and Nefa and eventually Zubai, based on the numbers that are coming out. Like she's sort of middle of the pack as far as that approach is concerned.
Very odd way to say Navia. Oh no! Oh no! Cartwheel! Oh no! Cartwheel!
You don't have much health, man.
I don't think we got to use our fleur de lis boom, so we gave away half of it. Okay, fine now.
But yeah, there's this the thing, the topic of the moment, and by moment I mean like it came up while I was asleep. As far as Genshin is concerned, is Genshin 2. Now the thing is that this is a right opportunity for everybody to go into hysterics, but nobody actually knows what Genshin 2 means. And the reason why that that it's become a topic for discussion is that there's a leaker who has about a 75 to 80% hit rate, who has correctly predicted quite a few recent things, and said that once Snezhnaya is tied up, then they'll be moving on to Genshin 2. And this has made a whole bunch of people, mainly the low IQ quote community unquote, freak out. But there's no actual clarification on what that means. After all, they decided to abandon the version numbering for this version, didn't they? And they're now using that weird Luna terminology instead for no real reason
Yep.
other than to distinguish it from previous patches.
Oh.
And at a certain point during Honkai Impact 3rd, they decided to just call it Part 2 and gradually phased out most of the stuff in Part 1. Like, there are still characters from Part 1 that work, but they are few and far between. Like, Luna Vow still does. There's still a lot of promotion for Luna Vow as well because she's gorgeous. She's like a character who was built to be waifu. She's sort of like an aged up version of Teresa. But and I think that there are some people who still swear they can make Senti work. But yeah. Senti is a wonderful character. It's sort of a shame that she doesn't get much billing outside of Honkai Impact 3rd. Like, she's not one of the characters who ever gets to appear in other games or anything like that. But she is just she's such a goober. She's nominally a villain, or was a villain, and still kind of wants to be able to rock a villain vibe, but it's just so bad at being a villain because she's completely immature.
Oh, so she's Aru.
Uh Not quite. Not quite. I can sort of see there are some things they have in common, but the thing is that Senti is very powerful and very competent. She's just completely obsessed with her self-image to the same extent Aru is, and just basically also on top of all that is just kind of tsundere in a dim way. Like, she's not like actively tsundere, because the thing that makes tsundere work as a character trope is that they are kind of dimly aware that they're tsundere, but Senti is not at all, and she's also kind of chuny. But she's chuny for a reason, because she is a powerful sort of like magical being which has superpowers and can like summon weapons and stuff. Like, she can do all the things that chuny people wish they could do, and despite all of this she's still chuny.
I mean,
Like, and there's a side story where she finds like this bird, and then she tries to train it to be her sort of like familiar type of thing, as like it comes up with all of this sort of like legendary deeds for it and that sort of thing. She's just a dork, but yeah. Um, but yeah, there's a huge sort of mechanical rift in Honkai Impact 3rd, where they basically introduced a major new mechanic that the flow of combat is now based on. And when I say major, I mean major in the sense like this is significantly more major than, say, Phlogiston, not Phlogiston, Night Soul, or Luna. This is like a bigger thing. Like, it seems kind of minor when you describe it. If you were to try and describe it, I won't, because the text is like ridiculously long because it's IO tooltip. But those it basically changes the flow of combat. It changes the way you move through things. In fact, it makes it more like Woowa. Like, before, you would certainly rotate between your three characters, swapping them in and out, but the system that they added is a little bit like the intro outro system in some ways. So that basically, imagine a Woowa where there's no intros or outros versus a Woowa where there is, and that's the difference between Honkai Impact 3rd Part 1 and Part 2. So pretty freaking enormous difference in the flow of combat. And of course, older characters, they can't outro, basically. I mean, if you have a Woowa character that can't outro, would you use them? No. But yeah, so that could be more like what they mean with Genshin 2, because I think that there's way too much invested in it to actually fork off another game. No!
Paul.
I did fall.
Okay. Excellent.
But I'm incredibly distracted because the radio on my bike is playing Ever Singing Song in the background.
Listen to that Phoebe.
Which do they just have a singer singing this song, or did they get Phoebe's voice actress, or which Phoebe voice actress?
It You could convince me that it was Phoebe's voice actress if you, but I don't know. Like, it kind of sounds like her, but like if she had a singing voice where projecting made her sound a bit different, but it's still in the same ballpark. So I don't know.
Hmm.
But it's Phoebe singing in the video, and that's all that matters. So it's Phoebe's song.
I accidentally dismounted and used my alt somehow. And my bike is still sitting there in the overworld waiting for me to mount it again. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Except I'm unable to interact with it. Because it's co-op. Anyway. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of sort of like freaking out about Genshin 2 at the moment, which is going to turn out to be a nothing burger because these types of freakouts always turn out to be a nothing burger. But yeah. Anyway, so it's those 4 out of the way. I don't think I've got anything else to talk about any of those. So the woo of the moment is they did their stream for the next version. This was it was received well by Woowa fans and badly by the Woowa community. If you want to sort of like draw a line between the two somehow, in the sense that when Star Rail did spending events, they all of the people who, rather than playing Woowa, they live on Twitter talking about Woowa, they all said, look, this proves that Star Rail is bad because Woowa hasn't done a spending event and Star Rail has. Well, Woowa is doing a spending event now. So this has caused a big schism in the discourse, which has been quite amusing to watch. Like, the gacha communities online are unspeakably toxic, but they can be quite entertaining to witness, just going about their enclosure doing strange things because they behave in such strange ways, and it's all incredibly childish and low rent bullcrap as well. Like it could. Do you care to guess the clever derogatory nickname that Hoyo Twitter have for Wuthering Waves?
There ain't no telling.
Poowa.
Okay.
That's literally the best they could come up with. This is like this and on the people that hate Genshin, they call it Genshit. It's like this is all shades of like 1990s console wars type of behavior, if you remember that period at all.
Yeah, I do.
It's sort of like that. It's kind of funny to watch from a distance when you know that you don't have to make a decision between them. You could just play the game that you like at any given point in time. That's allowed. Did you know that? But no, apparently you have to treat this like it's United States politics, and you join one faction and they can do no wrong and everybody else is evil. That's how it works. Or so I'm told. Anyway, so they did their previews of all the stuff. They start off talking a little bit about the main quest and that, but there's not really much they can say without spoiling it. Basically, everybody knows what's going to happen because they kind of make it clear at the end of the previous chapter, which is that Ameth helps Mornier survive inside the reactor. And Rover's like, okay, so this broad keeps showing up. We don't know anything about her. Nobody's seen her, but she seems to be there at pivotal moments in places that she couldn't possibly be. We need to figure out who she is and what her deal is. Okay, so that's the theme for the main quest. The next patch is going to have one main quest, Chapter 3, Arc 3, and Act 3, and then the second part is a segue. one of the Segway ones, so probably a bit shorter, I would guess. Um, with the first one focusing on Amith and the second one focusing on Luke. I've decided to settle on Amith as how I'm going to pronounce her name because in English she's pronounced Amith, and in Japanese she's pronounced Amith, and in Chinese she's pronounced Imeth. So the Chinese has the weight of being the original, but it's a 2-1, and I play in Japanese. So, yeah. So her kit is basically split between it's for all the descriptions sound like you straight up just choose a mode for her, the way you choose a tune, an off tune mode for Linne when you're playing Linne
Use
out of combat.
a card type for Phoebe.
No, I don't think so. Oh, you don't have Linne, so you don't know what I'm talking about. Linne has a switch in her resonator page.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if you go to, I'll just show you in the show chat. So if it ever loads up, there's a switch you can see in the upper left above your skill ranks,
Oh, I see.
and you can toggle from one side or the other. And on the side that I've currently got selected is tune rupture reaction, which means that anytime anybody performs a tune break, Linne will fire a shot from off field. And I think that well, I mean that's no. I think that it's called a reaction, so somebody has to apply the rupture. I think she can strike from off field for it, but Mornier doesn't have the switch. Mornier just follows whatever the person who does have the switch does, which is why Mornier doesn't work unless you've got someone like Linne on your team as well, because Linne can apply either tune strain or tune rupture because she's got a toggle to switch between them, but Mornier can't apply, I don't think, rupture or strain. She just reacts according to whether rupture or strain was applied by somebody else in the party. But yeah, the way Ameth's kit is described, it sounds like she also has a switch. I haven't seen any graphics to show that it works this way, but it sounds like it. To put her in either off-tune mode or fusion burst mode, and she will simply work differently depending on which way you're playing her. And in off-tune mode, she can like create stacks of off-tune, it sounds like, although it seems like she's not quite as good at that as Luke is, since Luke specializes exclusively in that. And in fusion burst mode, she uses stacks of fusion burst instead. And fusion burst is basically the living bomb, I guess. So fusion burst is the stock dot for fusion, which is unlike ones like erosion where it does damage over time, or frazzle where it does damage over time. Fusion burst is like when you put fusion burst on, and this is the original way, which I don't know if it'll still work this way by the time they release the new version with Ameth. You put fusion burst on a thing, and while it ticks down, you can stack it as high as you can, and the damage that it pops with depends on how many stacks you piled on before it went off. So it's sort of a backloaded dot type of thing. Yeah, so she's got a version for that where you'll play her with Linne and Chisa, and she's got a version for off-tune which you play with Linne and Mornier. But she seems to be quite dependent on Linne in a lot of ways. I think you can make a reasonable argument if you don't have Linne and you do have Chisa that you can use Looper, because Linne doesn't contribute much to Fusion Burst, but what Linne does do is selectively enhance Liberation damage, which is what Ameth's kit focuses on. Like most of the damage output seems to come out as Liberation damage, or Fusion Burst if you've got Fusion Burst selected, or Tune Break if you've got Tune Break selected. But it's all based around Liberation. But yeah, her kit is basically her. She fights on field. Her combat style is sort of similar to Alice's in ZZZ. When she's the one fighting, but she can also summon her armament mech and fight with that as well. And when she's like got high energy, I think she can fight alongside it at the same time. Like it's a pet basically. But and then she can merge with it for an ult sort of thing. It's that type of loop. But yeah, so it's an interesting layout. I'm interested to see how it actually works, how it actually flows together in practice. But it's
You need a
definitely
main
the headliner
DPS.
for the patch. Pardon?
You need a main DPS.
I need a main DPS who can like hit more than one target. I love Carlotta and all, and I am always salty every time I see somebody making fun of her height. However, number one, she is definitely short, and number two, I need a headliner, and it just so happens that I've got all of the pieces to make both of Ameth's teams, depending on which one I want to use. Apparently, the Fusion Burst one works way better in Whimpering Wastes than the Tune Break one, and the Tune Break one works way better than the in Tower of Adversity than the Fusion Burst one does. As of the previous closed beta, they've changed her in the current closed beta to, but mostly I don't think it's going to alter things very much because she mostly got nerfed. Um, although her sequences got buffed for Fusion Burst. But yeah, Luke, by contrast, is sort of a one-trick pony in that he's like really, really focused on tune break type mechanics and aerial combat and that. But he's in some ways he's so similar to Ameth, apart from being sort of like more narrowly focused, more specialized, that it's almost like they were trying to make an Ameth for people who didn't want Ameth, like people who either wanted to play a guy or had so much fusion in their account already that they didn't want more. Because Luke is a Spectro character, Spectro Gauntlet, and he fights with like scalpels and scythes and so on. And basically, his story is that he, I think he has, I think the story goes something like he's had a medical condition for so long and been taking these drugs for it for so long that has basically converted his blood into something else, and his and interacts with his forte in such a way that he can basically use blood manipulation, and so he uses that to fight. But yeah, his kit is not as interesting in that there's not like two sides to it. It's sort of like more narrowly focused on one thing. But it's all very like aerial and acrobatic, and he has a lot of stuff like Chisa does, where he can sort of stop and hover in the air and that type of thing, as opposed to flying around wildly on a robot the way Ameth does. But yeah, there seems to be a good 1/3 of the people online are actually interested in playing him, as opposed to the obvious correct choice, which is the pink woman. But yeah, anyway. Ameth's marketing has actually been kind of interesting because when she was a student, she was sort of like a guerrilla musician who went by the handle online of Fleet Snow Fluff. And it turned out long before anybody knew about this that Woowa had been running a Fleet Snow Fluff Twitter account ever since 3.0 was announced, where, quote, Ameth, unquote, would post things. But until it was revealed what whose Fleet Snow Fluff was, nobody knew to go and look for this Twitter account.
I see.
But yeah, apparently she, as the digital ghost that she is, like if you watch her trailer, basically the story is that she managed to force synchronization with the Exostrider one time to avert a disaster, but it caused her to overclock and her physical form dissolved as a result. So now she just she's a digital ghost basically. Her frequency still exists, but it doesn't exist on the plane where people can see it or interact with it. So the one exception being Rover. Rover can see her. But she's still, because she's a digital ghost, she can still occasionally, it seems like, act on social media, but not in the real world. So she occasionally will still post things.
I see.
But anyway, so that's the characters. And of course, they've got their own signature weapons as well, which will come with it. they are launching new regions for the next patch, which means immediately after dumping an enormous region onto the map, they are now launching another region. Although I don't know the structure of it, of course. I don't know what the map looks like. I don't know whether it's going to be a series of sort of like bubble regions, the way they do some of the Rinashita ones, the ones that have basically one place in them, or whether it's another continent with a variety of places. But this is supposedly up on the surface above the Laharoi that we're familiar with. And they've advertised a series of 6 different sort of like locales for it. So it looks like there's quite a bit of additional exploration material being added as well. Event wise, they have a sort of there's an event where basically Lumi invites you to a party and you kind of help run the party sort of thing. There's I know there's a combat one, but they didn't really say anything about it. There's the usual photography one. There's a weird sort of a motorcycle themed one that seems to be a sort of like hybrid motorcycle racer versus vertical scrolling shooter.
Let's see.
I'm not really sure. It's sort of hard to tell. There's one which is just sort of like a mini game type of thing where it's a play on a hex grid and you basically try and herd exoswarm and keep them from escaping their enclosures. And then there's your usual sort of lottery events for a lot of logistics where you just get free stuff. The usual more or less. Other little features. Rover will finally get her school uniform, and her cuteness has gone up by like at least 150%. Not wearing the weird outfit that she starts in, like it looks really good on her. I don't care about the way the male Rover looks, but the new outfit looks really good on female Rover. I can't imagine ever switching back to the old one because the old one is just kind of weird.
Yeah.
Go on. You have anything else to say? Any
No,
other
no,
harsh critiques for the weird outfit that female Rover wears?
no, I'm just thinking of the weird flappy like pelvic curtain and the giant ass bow.
Yeah, she still wears a bow, but it's much more streamlined, and it's in a contrasting color now.
Yeah, you forget the bow is there until you get stuck like force swapped to Rover and have to walk with her. You're like, all right, that thing that's the same color as her hair just sitting on her head.
Yes, I'm not so sure about the color palette, but the actual lines of it are quite nice. There's your usual free asterite. They're selling a bunch of vehicle liveries. If you buy the expensive premium one, it's an Ameth one. There's a free Ameth one as well, which I'll get to in a minute. But there's an expensive one which is for Ameth, where it also changes the sort of the chassis a little bit, and changes the colors and the tire colors and the colors of the gas that vents out when you turbo in there. Like there's lots of variations there for that. And then there's the 2 less expensive ones, which are just regular themed deliveries, one for Chisa and one for Yuno. I suppose the thing that I would say about that is I would probably be suckered into buying the Chisa one if I had a good amount of confidence that the motorcycle will be used after 3.x.
I'd probably buy the Phoebe
But,
one if they put a Phoebe one out.
but like if they just aren't going to use it anymore, then it's like, well, I mean, that's just kind of a waste, isn't it? Like I can see this in one location that I might never visit again, depending on what happens in the future of the game. So yeah, that's the sort of the fly in the ointment there. Like if I knew that they really were in love with the motorcycle and it was going to be a major method of transportation for the rest of the game's lifespan, then maybe I would think about it. But I don't know. It seems a bit. I might still get suckered into it. It's still possible. They aren't the best looking, but they don't look too bad either. It's worth mentioning also that they said that they're making some improvements to the motorcycle. Apparently, the motorcycle is just an absolute nightmare to use on mobile, and so they're completely revamping the control scheme for it for 3.1.
Oh boy.
Um,
After we spent all this time getting used to its janky physics and controls.
no, I said for mobile.
Okay, they're just for mobile then.
Yeah, because you can't use it on mobile. It basically doesn't work properly. It's as bad as it is to control with a regular gamepad. Apparently, it's a lot worse on a mobile touchscreen. But yeah, apparently they said they are still going to be making some adjustments to the handling because it's a little bit too much of a bucking bronco. Um, but yeah, they're also adding an alternative module that you can switch to, which gives it the ability to drive on water
So
by
cool.
deploying the little drone things that you shoot within the story, and instead they shoot cold gas at the water in front of you to freeze it under you.
I see.
But yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff there. But the implication of some of the stuff they said was that they're soliciting continual feedback on the handling of the motorcycle so they can make ongoing adjustments to improve it. On account of people like it in concept, but they don't necessarily like how it handles. But yeah. Anyway, moving on, they're doing one of those packs that Star Rail does this quite regularly, where once in a while they'll release a patch where there's like a 7-day login thing that you can buy for cheap, and if you log in every day, you'll get like Stellar Jade. It's like that. They are also, like I mentioned, they're doing a spending event. So the spending event has typical spending event types of rewards. It's pretty similar to the Star Rail one, to be totally honest. Now, there's no detail on here, but the data mined detail, I'm trying to recall what the costing rates were. I think that from memory, when I did the math, it was something like so the important tier is always the character selector one, which is always the second to last, right, on a spending event. And I seem to recall when I napkin mathed it that it was about 155 US dollars to get to that point. But at any rate, they haven't supplied official numbers for how much purchasing you need to do to get to each tier. But the first one was golden pull orbs. Second one is like it's a little Ameth bobblehead that you can put on the dash of your motorcycle for some reason. The third node is Forging Tides. That is the gold weapon pull currency. The fourth node is the non-premium version of the Ameth livery, so it doesn't change the chassis or the color scheme of the bike at all. It's just liveries for it, just art. The fifth node is a weapon selector for the new batch of standard 5-star weapons, of which I recall 3 of them are extremely good and 2 of them are completely useless. The sixth node is for the new substat adjustment thing, which is... I don't like the way they've deployed it, but I'll go into that in a minute. The seventh node is the character selector. Now, this is a very limited character selector, but they know what they're doing with this character selector.
The
Because there
Shorekeeper
are
on it?
only 3 choices, and one of them is Shorekeeper.
Oh
The
no.
other 2 are Jinshi and Camellia.
But just load up now.
No, Aristeo, maintain your self-control. Make rational decisions about your spending at the time. So yeah, Jinshi, Camellia, Shorekeeper are the options. Which are good options because Camellia was like throughout 1.x, 2.x was one of the premium AoE options. Jinshi was one of the premium single target options, and Shorekeeper is still the premium support option for everything outside of Tune Break and Dot. So yeah, they made 3 very cunning choices there to get people to that level. And of course, the last one is the cosmetic one that they always have. So your avatar, your ID card background thingy, and the crown. I don't usually. I have the birthday crown from my birthday. I've never actually put it on, but it's a crown like the birthday crown, except it's made out of blue crystal instead of gold. Um, they said there is a. I saw this morning that they have a new birthday crown for this year, so maybe they're planning to redesign it each year. But yeah. Anyway, so there, where was I? I've lost my place on my chart.
Hugging a ferret.
Where's my thingy? Okay. Right. So the last one of the tchotchkes is a new thing, which is sort of uh, it's not a spending event. You could treat it like a spending event if you were insane. But it's called Star Paths Intertwine, and basically it's a veteran rewards thing. It's like the opposite of a new player kickstart thing. But you need an egregious amount of stuff to get it. So basically you get points towards this based on stuff you've done up to a point. So achievements will get points on this, albeit very few. Signature weapons get it, limited characters get it, wave bands get it, that sort of thing. And as you accumulate the points, you'll get different rewards. So the first reward is 10 green pool currency. The second reward is like a name card thing. Third reward is a title thing. Fourth reward is 10 gold pool currency. Fifth reward is a glider. But from what people have been saying online, people who have been playing since launch and quite lucky and moderate spenders are scratching maybe reward 3, maybe. So this is a long-term prospect and not something that you should push into based on the leaked numbers. They could adjust the cost of each tier. Probably they won't. So yeah, I would take that as it's a bonus thing that you get when you get, for those people who have already got the bonuses that you can get out of your your account level. Not something that you should attempt to try and get by forcing a whole mountain of achievements. Like, you would need to, in order to push yourself up to the first tier, you would need to get like 1,000 achievements or something silly like that. So I wouldn't. So they've added, based on the previewed items for Resonator skills, it looks like they're adding a new weekly. I could be wrong though, because the infographics they used were really hard to read, like just not very clear about what they were describing. But yeah, they've introduced some new echoes, new 4-cost echoes, 3 new Sonata sets. The Sonata sets are, there are two that look like they could be applicable to Ameth, except one of them is more supporty, so maybe it implies the existence of another Fusion Burst character coming down the line, because like there's one that's for Ameth. It's like obviously for Ameth because the sigil on it is the same symbol that Ameth has on her chest. Like, it couldn't possibly be for anyone else. And it basically gives improvements to your crit rate and fusion damage based on inflicting Fusion Burst or Tune Rupture shifting, which is basically when you use Ameth's kit, you get these bonuses. Nobody else is going to be able to do that. So, yeah. The second one, though, this one is not clear who it's for. It gives fusion damage at 2-piece, so you presume it's going to go on a fusion character. But you get fusion damage bonus from your 5-piece by inflicting Fusion Burst. And Ameth is the only character who can do that. But the second bonus is that during the time that you've got fusion damage bonus, if you outro, it will pass that bonus on to the next Resonator. but there's nobody who can take advantage of that because in every Ameth team with Fusion Burst, it's going to pass it to Chisa, which is she can't use fusion damage bonus, so that kind of implies that maybe there's going to be a sub DPS to replace Linnae and Fusion Burst teams, which, I mean, it would make sense to a certain extent, because Linnae's an awkward fit for that build, not a bad fit, but just sort of like nothing in her kit says anything about Fusion Burst, so it's kind of odd. Like, she still gives all of the right stat improvements for Ameth, but just without fusion being mentioned. So maybe there's going to be another fusion damaged character. I mean, this is a preview for 3.1, and the last version had 8 patches. So, well, 8 patches after 2.0. So there's a lot of water to yet flow under the bridge. And there could even be like a 4-star or something that uses it. Who knows? The third set is an odd duck. Everybody is assuming that it's going to be for Sigrika, since Sigrika is Ero's sword and is going to be the sole new resonator in the next patch, in the following patch 3.2, as far as people know. And this is the 2-piece gives Ero damage. The 5-piece causes the dealing of Echo skill damage to increase Echo skill crit rate and give Ero damage bonus. So it's not a support one because it doesn't pass anything to the next character. But yeah, it's not really a DPS one that fits any of the current DPS characters. So that would make Sigrika a DPS character using Echo skill damage, except an Ero, which would basically make her a complete overlap with Galbrenna in a different element, which seems weird. And there's already an Ero damage Echo skill character.
Maybe she's made to make Bamboo Man great again.
Well, isn't he a sub DPS? I'm not, or is he a support? Like, I don't know how people integrate him into teams. Is he second slot or third slot? Like,
I think he's usually second slot. And so I guess if Segi's the support for that team, it could pass his stuff on to Bamboo Man, and then
it
Bamboo.
doesn't pass stuff on. Based on the descriptions we've got, it's basically It's basically for the DPS.
Then I don't know.
It's a DPS set. But
Sounds
we've
like
already got a capstone echo damage DPS in Galbrenna, and she's running the patch before Sigrika. So it's very hard to work out what's going on there. I am expecting though that the CBT will be well underway by the time it becomes necessary to make a decision about if you were the sort of person who was like really keen on the echo damage build and you had Galbrenna, then do you go all in on giving her wave bands in the second half of the patch, or do you wait to see what Sigrika does? Like, by the second half, we should have a bit more information on that coming out of CBT, although there was a huge delay compared to normal on the leaks coming from CBT for Luke particularly, but also Ameth.
the other thing is, if Segrika comes along and isn't going to do anything for you, do you finally just have to buckle down and get the booby jellyfish?
That seems like a commercially an odd position to try and put people in.
Yeah, because
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. Why would you? Because there is no hard echo damage support, right? Like most support, most of the supports we've got, like Verena, Shorekeeper, Mornier, they really don't do anything for echo damage, do they?
there are only 3 characters in the game right now that can build up Galbrena's bar for Echo skill casts, and that is the Jellyfish Booby Lady, Bamboo Man, and Farlova.
But the thing is that Bamboo Man is a sub DPS, and Galbrenna and Frolova, and Camellia is also a sub DPS, and Galbrenna and Frolova are both capstones for their team. They are the output. They are the the open hose of damage.
And
So there's still no support, which seems like a really weird position to leave the archetype in. If you introduce another DPS, then you've got 3 DPSs, one that's really AoE, one that's sort of like, I don't know whether you call Galbrin a single target or AoE. She can sort of do a bit of both, but she seems to be more focused on single target most of her rotation.
her range is
But
incredibly small aside from that one hit in her combo that hits absolutely everything around her once.
That does leave the sort of the middle ground niche, but we don't really need a middle ground niche. Like leaning a little bit more one way or the other would be fine. But fully populating out the DPS tier of their archetype without having backfilled any sort of like purpose-built supports and only having one sub DPS seems like a really jank way to bring out an archetype. So yeah, there's still an awful lot of questions about how that will all fit together.
If you do have one of her echo juicers, any support will make her damage numbers bonkers. You do have to actually play her, which is the hard part, because Galbrina is the simplest character on paper to play, and one of the hardest characters in execution to get everything to come out right. Just because the timing is so tight on those dodge cancels.
Yeah, so there's 2 new forecasts and 3 new sets. Ameth's forecast literally is a Gundam. It's just a Gundam. Looks exactly like a Gundam. Looks specifically kind of like... It looks like the ones from the Gundam Seed series, I think.
Not a windmill Gundam.
Anyway.
We're not going G Gundam.
No, we're not. Nobody is ever going G Gundam, I'm afraid.
It's the best Gundam. They call it racist now. You know it. We'll never see another G Gundam.
I don't think the Japanese care that much if people call them racist. But anyway, so other key updates for this. There are 2 main ones that caught people's attention. The first one is the changes to the data merge. So you can still do the classic smoosh 5 into random, or you can alternatively smoosh 5 and turn it into a particular targeted Sonata set. Except the only thing you can use to fuel that are the highest tier, the 5-star echoes, which is fine because everybody with an account that is built up to a certain point is going to have only those left in the tank, unless they visit Fern's World and get a bunch of green ones. So that is going to be a huge relief to a lot of people. Now, it's still going to output random dross, but it's going to be random dross within a Sonata set that you're actually building. So it's a good way to, if you've got a whole bunch of stuff farmed up from the last character you're building, you can get a good head start on populating, your first set for the new characters coming out. They haven't said anything about doing weird crap like Genshin does where you can't do the new set. They didn't imply that. Why does Genshin do that? It's such a pain in the butt.
It's got just so many archaic and weird arbitrary restrictions. Like we still can't farm any domain.
Rotting in my inventory. Yeah, can't farm on the day of the week that you want. You have to farm Sunday or go home. Yeah, so that's dumb. Now the one that there's the least information floating around on is the mechanics of their subset stat selector, but it seems to be quite bad. Number one, indications, people say that the indications in closed beta is that they're hard to get. They're going to be gotten, it seems like they're going to be gotten at a rate that's sort of comparable to the feathers in Genshin, probably a bit more than the dice in Star Rail, but yeah. But the problem is that you can't select substats with it. That's the big problem. And that's what people actually wanted, and they didn't do that. It's more like the dice. But basically, the way that it works in the prototypes that I've seen bandied about is that you get the substat locking thing locking unit, and basically you invest a certain number of them in your re-randomization of an echo that has been maxed out, and you can't do this unless you've already built it up to plus 25, as far as I'm aware. And you can lock down substats. The more stats you lock before re-randomizing, the more of the resource it costs. So if you just lock one and re-randomize, it's only going to cost you one, for instance. Although I think that's how it works. I don't know if the number is correct, but that's just an example. Maybe they'll let you have two with one of them. But if you want to lock multiple, it's going to cost you more of these randomizers. And then, like it implies, the way I've described it, it will just randomize the last slot. So you might get absolutely nothing out of it, which will be a huge waste of time, because that last slot, if you're just re-randomizing like 1 or 2 slots, much less likely you're going to get anything useful. And you have invested an even larger amount of resources in re-randomizing those two. And if you're only locking like one, well, why even bother? You might as well just roll up a new one. So I think it's a very bad implementation of the concept, because it gets you coming and going. Either it's not worth using them, you might as well start from scratch, or it costs so much for so little potential benefit that it's not worth using them at the other end. Maybe there's a middle ground where you want to use them, but it seems to me like they've just, they've tripped over themselves trying not to be too generous. And when you're making something like this really, really rare, I don't know why you have to be stingy. Giving somebody like one echo a patch that has the right stats, is that really so bad? Couldn't you just do that? Like, the battle pass has enough resources on it, let's say, to let you customize like 4 out of 5 on one echo. Basically, to give everybody one god echo per patch. Would that be so terrible? Would that be so awful? Why do you have to make it so difficult to get what you want? They're still gonna have to farm for every other freaking slot.
Well, my queen feed have the 5 out of 5s.
I've only got one echo that's anywhere near that good. I've got one 5 slotter that's good on Chisa, and that's it. Like, I'm lucky if I can get 2 on most of my characters, because there are so many stats in
Yeah.
WoWa.
I wasted a crap load to get Phoebe, the one she has. She has my best echo by a country mile. Crit rate, 4 cost with crit rate, crit damage, high roll on the crit damage, attack percent energy regen. And that's the
I've got
only one I've got anywhere near that.
I've got only one good one, and it's on Chisa, and it's only a 3 cost, so it's not even that punchy. But I'm glad I've got it. I'm usually happy to settle for a good 2 on most of my characters. 3, and then I'm away laughing.
On
4 is just a dream. 5 is a miracle.
like 4 ain't happening. 3 is the if I really want to build up this character, we'll work towards it over a long period of time. I'll take a workable 2.
Yeah, I settle for 2 on most of my characters. Otherwise, you're just going to be farming forever. And there's a lot of things to farm in this game, because you need a million materials to level up skills. But yeah, so that's sort of like that's the shape of the next patch coming out. It's nothing too groundbreaking. I suppose we'll see how the region shapes up and how it feels to explore. I'm looking forward to pulling Ameth and being able to put together another competent team.
Be able to actually
The pink
DPS.
woman is good in every game, so yeah, I'll have an actual DPS. I wish people would stop throwing shade at Carlotta. She's awesome. It's just that she's awesome in a narrow context. What I've actually heard people say about Carlotta meta-wise, though, apparently she still holds up really well in Tactical Hologram. Like, she's still one of the best DPSs to tackle Tactical Hologram with, provided that you aren't pushing up the Glacier Resist Hill.
Yeah, same.
Because all of her damage goes on target. It's like her item budget, or her design budget, I guess, has all gone into single target damage.
Yeah.
So if you need to chunk something's health fast, she can do it. And plus, she's able to even paralyze bosses sometimes for like just that second and a half that you need to not get domed.
Yeah, it's she's up there with Sonny for tag hologram.
I haven't spent much time with it yet because, well, basically she needs a good sub DPS. But there were some early leaks that said that there is a direct power creep / substitute / variant / something for Gigi coming out in 3.7, which is purpose built to be the energy funnel plus general damage amplifier in the sub DPS slot for Glacio. Because there's like 3 Glacio characters in the game or whatever. But
It's gonna
yeah.
have a penis.
Anyway, I really hope not. I really, really hope not. Every time there's another male character coming out, I have to cross my fingers that they're not going to be useful for anything that I want.
Don't want to get adventuring.
I don't want to get adventuring. I just don't. Anyway.
Would Carlotta even make it over the flowers in this field? That tiny?
Listen, she's the same height as Peeb. Sol's hat.
He barely makes it over the flowers.
But man, it seems to have become quite mocking Carlotta's height seems to have become a cottage industry. Like it's really taken off over the past few months to the point where it's like you see it in the official media now at times. Is this flower taller? Yes, this flower's either the same or slightly taller.
It's okay. They'll never find us. We're too short. We'll hide in the flowers.
But yeah. Anyway, so that's the shape of those things. I think we're what 10 or 11 days out from new patch deployment, something like that. I don't remember. Let's have a look. The banners have had 10 days, 13 hours left on them.
In that ballpark is when the new patch. It's in that ballpark is when the new patch comes out.
Right, so that's Woowa. So I spent a little bit of time doing a taste testing of Arknight's Enfield. And when I say a little bit of time, I mean I unlocked basically nothing because the systems in that game are unbelievably sprawling. Now, there is only one thing in this game that I think Aristiel will like, and it is Ardelia, the character who fights by throwing fluffy pink sheep at people. She is the equivalent of Verena for Arknight's Enfield, and everybody gets her for free. I think that they were just literally just watching what happened in Woowa, and the fact that the entirety of the meta for 1.0 in Woowa was paralyzed around whether or not you had Verena, and nothing else mattered. So rather than letting that happen again, they just gave everybody their Verena. So, yes, Mr. Dolly the Sheep and Ardelia are sort of the linchpin of basically every team that needs a support. However, basically, the rest of the game is like a laundry list of things that Aristiel hates. So, you have almost no ability to rebind your controls. They are what they are, and they are what they are that they are, and it will be incredibly unforgiving in various ways because this is not like a character swap game like the other major gachas. It doesn't work the same. So the controls do different things. So yeah, it's very frustrating in that respect. The other thing that really stuck out to me that I still hate is that this game is oppressive at tutorializing you. Every time you turn around, the screen has gone dark and a little message has popped up, waiting for you to do what they command you to do. And it is like this for like the entire couple hours that I spent trying to grind through the beginning of the game. It's just like black screen after black screen after black screen. It's like, is there a game behind this tutorial somewhere? And apparently it just amps up more and more the more features you unlock.
You know, there are plenty of games with sheep. There's
It was almost comical how often I was in tutorials. You can't just dismiss them either. You have to keep going. You have to follow through each and every step, all the way to the end. And it won't let you do anything else. But yeah, so in terms of like the usability stakes of the thing, it's just like going to be pure kryptonite to anybody who just wants to get on and get her done. People who want to just play it. Let me play the game.
Learn by
No,
play.
you're playing the
No,
tutorial first.
no, no. You gotta go to infield class 101 first before you play the video. But I learned by play. We don't care. Most of our audience is dumb Zoomers that can't read. So we don't know why we're giving
Well,
them a text tutorial anyway. But you know,
so the other thing is that this game presents itself in an action-esque way, but your action game skills will be of almost zero help to you because that's not actually how the game works. It just superficially looks like an action game. It actually has more in common with Star Rail, despite being real time, because pretty much the way your team runs will be determined by how you set the team up and their various synergies. It's not really about execution. There is an execution component, but the execution is sort of like the full stop on the end of the sentence. It's not really the guts of the thing. You do still have to do, like, eventually mature towards a rotation, where you will want to do different skills in a various orders and different ultimates and whatnot. However, there's like, while you can dodge, that's about the only action skill that you need. Everything else is just like, just press square and then press square again and again and again and again and again. Like, those are the only things that it's inherited from the action scene. The structure of the thing is you have a 4-person party, and those 4 persons are on field at all times. And when the one you are piloting directly starts doing the combats, then everybody else will as well. They'll pilot and they'll just basically start auto-attacking, doing their thing, moving around. They are surprisingly have a reasonable sense of self-preservation, which is better than I expected. Or at least maybe I just haven't seen, maybe there's going to be some monster that will show up in the guts of the game that is pure kryptonite to the AI, and the AI will just derpily stand in the fire every single time. But I haven't seen that yet. The gist of the thing is basically there is a metric shit ton of keywords for different debuffs, and different debuffs that do different things, and debuffs that change when you attach 2 different debuffs of a certain class, and debuffs when you double stack them, they change into something else, and debuffs that are all part of like physical, for instance, has like 6 different debuffs or something like that, like lift and uh topple and break and vulnerability, and I can't remember them all. There's so many different characters apply different ones. Largely because once one is applied, you sort of can't reapply it in physical. It doesn't seem, except for vulnerability, which does stack up. But like, you can't really knock somebody down if they're already juggled in the air. So yeah, and you can't knock somebody in the air who's already in the air because they've already got that debuff, and so on and so forth. But basically, everything is founded on applying these various states and then interacting with them. And every character has a thing that will trigger their combo skill, and their combo skill will have a cooldown. Usually, I think the shortest ones are sort of like 6 seconds, but most of them are more like 15 to 20 seconds. But the idea is to create a team that synergizes such that you can pull off long combo chains where each step will trigger off the ability to do another part of the combo chain, and so on. So you can basically slam people over and over again with combos. It's very much, the game is one based on how well you set your team up, what their kit has, what gear gives them, what other amps they've got. To like, you'll want to build around a core concept. Like, there are simple teams that are just based around hyper carry to some extent, but to actually make a hyper carry work, it still requires a certain amount of fiddling about. Like, for instance, the sort of the standard banner hypercarry is last right. I pulled her from the standard banner pretty early, which basically shot all my luck for that game. But she's basically the Diluc in that she has a big sword and she hits things with it. She does not make all the loot go off the cliff though, although occasionally it still does. But she basically has a bunch of restrictions on her that she can't charge her own ultimate. No, she can only charge her own ultimate. Her ultimate will not charge as a result of any other skills that people use. So basically, she charges her ultimate by consuming stacks of one of the cold debuffs, one of the cryo type debuffs. And so basically, you need to build a team around snowballing, no pun intended, towards enough debuffs that she can consume them to generate ultimate and then do the big boomy at the end. And then there are other sort of like weird things. Like one of the reasons that Ardelia is quite powerful and flexible is that one of her, I can't remember if it's her combo or a skill or something or her ultimate, one of her abilities at any rate, forces the corrosion debuff on the enemy without consuming any of the other debuffs, because normally to build a corrosion type team you would need to consume other debuffs using a nature debuff to turn it into corrosion, but she just applies corrosion to a thing, meaning that you still get value out of corrosion because corrosion reduces resists on the target in addition to dealing damage, but you don't need to go through the process of eating other debuffs to get there. So she works in every team. Also sheep. But yeah, so it's very much a team building based game. So in that sense, I rather like it, although it feels quite jank to play initially because you can't really massage the character selection to work in your favor early on because everybody's got like really low rates of applying things and doesn't quite mesh together that well. But that's just early game teething trouble type stuff. But yeah, that's the sort of the rough way that it works. In terms of combat anyway. The guts of the game is the part that takes the longest to unlock, which is the factory stuff. Now, what I will say is that my autism was tickled something wicked by this, because the game actively encourages you to get distracted and mine things. So you never know when you're going to need some of this rock. Just get some of that, carry that with you. Then you can craft a thing later and stick it on top of that rock to suck more rocks out. And you can plug that thing into this other thing, which will process those rocks into this other type of rock. And then you can plug that thing into this other thing, which will craft those rocks into this item you can do this thing with. Basically, in Arcanite's Enfield, you don't farm domains for gear. There is no Sakados mines. There are only literal mines. So all of the gear is obtained by means of Factorio. The more extensive and elaborate your factory, the better your gear. And apparently the RNG on it is tuned down really low compared to most gachas. Like something like 4/5 of the stats on your gear you can just custom build based on your factory. The RNGing up your gear is very, very minimal. All of that stuff is piled into other arenas of the game. Namely, like your last augment slot thing that you want to slot into your weapon, you're going to have to mold over that to get your optimal. But when it comes to like putting together your gear sets and that sort of thing, you build a factory that can assemble them. The amount of resources that you need to actually put them together is colossal, apparently, but you get what you specify once you've collected the resources. So it's like grind on a path to get to a target rather than roll the dice 1,000 times and hope that one of them is a god piece. Yeah, that's basically that for gear. Weapons are pulled from a banner like other things, but well, we'll go into the gachas, I guess. So the main gacha things are they've got your limited gacha banner and your regular gacha banner, and there's also the newbie gacha banner, but we'll skip that because every gacha has one, and then you'll never see it again after the first 40 pulls or whatever. So we can skip over that. But the standard banner has your standard like 5 or 6 6 stars, because they go 4-star, 5-star, 6-star, with sorry, with your 4 stars being your purples, your 5 stars being your sort of like gold yellow, and the 6 stars being red orange in terms of the halo color that you get out of the gacha thing. Pulling on the gacha is kind of amusing because you actually pull the gacha with the R2 button on the PlayStation controller, but they've added haptics to make it really stiff to pull. It's an interesting use of haptics. But yeah, anyway, the when you pull on characters, the character banners only have characters on them. Like I have most of the characters at max constellations now for the 4-star tier because everything you pull is a character. And the 4 stars are not dog water either. Well, that's not strictly true. Some of them are dog water, but some of them are actually god tier, particularly the supports. Like Akakuri is an incredible SP support. There's a lizard dude
They
who
don't
is
have
also
sheep.
an incredibly good. No, there may be sheep in the future at 4-star tier, but currently the only sheep is at the 6-star tier. So yeah, you'll get a mass of 4 stars that are quite useful. Like you're probably not going to want to use a 4-star as your main source of damage because their stats are just not going to be as good as higher level operatives. But people were getting plenty of good mileage out of the 5-star ones, and the 6-star ones are. Well, there are a couple that stand out, like Last Right has good performance and Laverton has good performance, but everybody else is like, okay, as far as output's concerned. Everywinner seems to be the most popular amongst the 5-star damage dealers. But yeah, so you pull on these things, but when you pull on them, basically, you don't use gacha currency for weapon banners. You probably can. There's probably a way through the shop to do that, but that's not the default. The default is basically you pull on it using what would be Coral and Woowa. So you pull on the character banner and it accumulates resources which you can then dump into your weapon banners. And much like basically the weapon banners work similarly to Woowa in that every sort of like featured weapon has a pity of 80, and every or you can still target the standards on a pity of 80 as well if you want to dump your resources into those. But yeah, so the weapons are, and you can. The interesting part though, I guess, is that you can actually just spend that currency, I think, to get really low level ones if there's a particular effect that you want from a low level one and you haven't managed to get it for some reason. But from what I've seen so far, they chuck a reasonable number of those at you. There are 3-star weapons. There are no 3-star characters, but there are 3-star weapons, and the 3-star weapons are basically dull blade, dull iron sword, whatever it's called in Genshin. You don't want those. But yeah, so the featured banner is an interesting beast as well. Their gacha system is sort of like similar but different to the other main gachas. You have a pity at 60. Is it 60 or is it 80?
Me.
I can't remember. But there's 2 stages of pity. There's your first 50-50 pity, and then there's your guaranteed, right? But you cannot build pity between banners. It is not a thing. There are parts of the pity that do carry between banners, but it's better to just assume that they don't because the system is quite complex. It is very much a case of save 120 pulls for the character that you want and hope that you get it earlier than that. It's not worth thinking about. Like you're not going to gain anything up to like if you pull 50 times on a banner for a character you aren't that fussed about, and you lose a 50-50, you get some standard character or whatever, you're not any better off for the next one. The 50-50 is not going to carry forward. It's not going to help at all. There's not all those are just going to go to waste. So just plan to spend 120 pulls every single time. That's the safe way of dealing with it. The other interesting thing about their banner is like for 1.0, there are 3 featured characters. That being Leviton, who's the one who's currently up, and the Fox girl whose name that escapes me. I'm just going to go and check if my computer will cooperate, which I have a funny feeling it's not, because it doesn't like me tabbing out of Gilberta, who's the support one, and Yvonne. So those are the three featured ones. The current rate up one, the one that's got the 50-50 on it, is Leviton. But the interesting thing is that the other two that are going to be featured during the patch are also in the pool of standards as a potential pull from a 50-50 loss. They will not be added there permanently. They will all disappear together when the banners end for 1.0. But as long as 1.0 is running, all three of them will be on the featured banner. Two of them as a loss of a 50-50 and one of them as a win. So yeah, that's a bit of an interesting way of doing it. I haven't pulled on that banner yet. They flick you a few promo tickets, like a couple of promo tickets to pull on the banner, which are tickets that will expire at the end of that banner. So you might as well, get the YOLO out of your system. But it's not going to really amount to all that much in the end unless you're really lucky. I haven't pulled it yet. I don't know. I don't particularly like Leviton. Like she seems like a Ellen Joe. Like she's got the same sort of vibe as Ellen Joe as well in certain respects. I think I'll probably save pulls if I keep playing, which is a big if because I don't have all the time in the world. I'll probably save for Yvonne because she looks a lot like if Liz Bathory from FGO was more blessed in the chesticle department.
That ain't hard. There's a lot of upper limit on that.
But yeah, it's from a meta perspective, it's retarded for me to pull on Yvonne rather than Leviton because I've already got Last Right, who's also Ice type, and Yvonne is Ice type, and they do not synergize. In fact, they have anti-synergy. But I want Liz, so I think I would probably say for Yvonne. But yeah. Anyway, so I haven't had the chance to play with the factory yet. I've been leaving the Gacha alone for now. The core game, like exploration-wise, feels a lot like the other classic Gachas with open world. Like it's the same kinds of puzzles you're going to be solving to get chests to unlock and so on and so forth. You're not going to see anything surprising to you. It's going to fit like a glove if you're used to the other ones. The only thing that is really strongly deviating from the norm is the constant "the factory must grow" impulse. So you're going to be lacquering the land in like pylons and transmission towers and that to make an energy infrastructure like Georgia doesn't apparently have, that is robust and stable and will power everything forever, come what may, so that the factory can expand. There's lots of puzzles around the place that require power to solve, so you may simply need to wire them up to your base from across the map. So yeah, terraforming the place by stamping your industrial equipment all over it is a major part of exploration in Arknights. And honestly, it's very fun from an autistic perspective. Is no, I need power everywhere. I need pylons everywhere. Everything must have energy crackling all over it. Because the factory must grow. But yeah, so it's got a lot to commend it for somebody like me who mostly plays games in theory world, because you can just basically mill around doing autistic crap instead of playing the game properly, which appeals to me. But yeah, for somebody who really wants an exciting action time out of it, I really don't think it holds all that much since the combat is like very methodical. It's not like you don't have a certainly you can make team builds that have really high actions per minute that you have to press as far as hammering the buttons is concerned, but it's more about making all the pieces fit together and the system to run, and then you just crank the handle. Make sure you do your Make sure you get your final attacks out. Make sure you hit your skills at the right time. Make sure you keep hammering the combo button, and she'll be right. The dodging feels very iffy, but that's probably because there are so many. Like, if you're already dodging things in Wuwa and dodging things in ZZZ, having another game's take on dodging injected into it is definitely going to feel jank because you've got to get used to its way of doing things. I've heard that they made it dramatically easier to dodge in this game compared to beta, where it was absolutely ruthless. But apparently, it was so ruthless. The dodge windows were so ruthless in the original version of the game that the game basically would have been unsaleable to the most of the populace because they would all had to mold forever just to get through simple battles. But so they made it a great deal easier. Some people think that's a good thing. Quite a few people think it's a bad thing because dodging, like anything else, can be learned. But it's dodging doesn't like pay off huge dividends in this game. It just stops you from getting hurt, which, to be fair, is something you really want to do. And not having your attack string reset by dodging is standard, which is nice. Why it's not standard in every game, I don't know. Especially for DPS characters.
I started bolting it onto more and more characters in WoW, but not to Calcharo.
The one guy who needs it more than anybody else. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's I haven't, like I said, I've played very little of it, and a lot of the time I spent, I wasted going back and forth between mining rigs just to collect more ore, because not because I needed it for anything, but because it was there to collect. So if you don't mind the fact you're going to make zero freaking progress in the game, then it's good for people like me.
What I heard
Interesting
was
thing about it.
throw sheep at things, collect rocks, make bigger rocks.
Basically, yeah. The sheep thing is quite fun. Her ult is just basically she rides around on a sheep, flinging more sheep everywhere, and there's just sheep lying in various states of distress all over the battlefield, and you can run around and pick them up for health.
I see. Not quite
It's
as cool
very
as
entertaining to watch. It's not very practical, but very entertaining to watch.
not quite as cool as Busta Wool.
But yeah, it's quite entertaining in its own unique way. It's certainly there is certainly more freshness to its approach compared to the old ones relative to, say, the gap between Genshin and Wuwa, which is an iterative gap rather than a revolutionary gap in a lot of ways. This is like the focus here is very different. The focus here is on autism. It's like you're going to build your factory. How big can we make it? Type of thing. So yeah, I'm sure that there will be people who come up with optimal factories and post them online, so people who aren't good at that can get some help there, because people post their autism online all the time. So I'm sure there's going to be a thriving community if there isn't already. But yeah, overall I got a good impression from it. Story wise, it's nothing to write home about. But there's not really much you can say story wise about the tutorializing chapter of 1.0 of any gacha. I've never seen one that was particularly captivating. The ZZZ one was good-ish, but most of the time it's usually relatively low key, and you probably wouldn't remember it anyway because there's so much to learn. Like, they're throwing so many different terms and systems at you that I think the biggest problem with it is just that there are so many things to remember, so many different things to navigate on the UI. Like, there are so many sub-menus that Monster Hunter would give a stoic nod of approval. It's definitely designed to tickle people's autism ahead of everything else. So, yeah, I don't think, based on my very small amount of time I've spent playing, I don't think I'll say much more about it. The characters are cute, I guess. I really like them. Like, you don't spend a lot I haven't spent a lot of time with them. You probably do a bit later, maybe, but you get a very good sense for their personality very quickly. They're not particularly revolutionary. They're just archetypes, of course. But like, I really like Chen. She's just like she's got a keen eye and a sharp mind, but mostly she's head empty, hit with sword. Pelica is going to mother you relentlessly. She's very, very worried about Administrator and whether he's okay or she's okay. The male main character design is incredibly bland, as always. Female main character design is also quite bland, but I don't know if it's because I spent so long playing Stell, but she gives me the vibe of being a goober, just quietly being a goober. This is her appearance. She's just got a sort of vapid smile on her face at all times. But yeah. Anyway, I don't have much else to say about it. Maybe if I spend some more time playing it, I'll have more to say about it. But yeah, there's the one thing I didn't mention actually that is variously helpful and annoying is that it's got a little bit of I'll call it Dark Souls syndrome, in the sense that sometimes things that other players leave in their worlds will be appearing in your world too. Occasionally, this is really helpful. Like, how much people like a thing that has appeared in their world will affect how many people's worlds it appears in. So you often get useful things, like an out-of-the-way mining place might have a stash thing that allows you to access your regional inventory from right next to the mining location that somebody has set up and other people have liked, and therefore it has moved to more people's worlds. Or someone might have put a zip line for quick transport in a really convenient location and lots of people are using it, so it appears in your game as well. But oftentimes it just has obnoxious messages. Try finger butthole.
Ah, yeah. The classic. Could this be dog? Don't give up, skeleton. Hidden passage ahead.
There was a very angry rhinoceros that the message basically said in the weird sort of potted speech. Just attack it from the front, it'll be fine. It was not fine. But yeah, so there's that as well. You can delete things if you just don't like them. You can say no, go away, hit the delete, get rid of it. Don't want you here. But occasionally they will be useful, especially early on when you don't have any infrastructure. Having people set up a bunch of like public zip lines to get around the immediate starting area quickly without having to drag your feet. That can be quite handy. It's probably there because of the reroller community, who are going to want to accelerate their early game as fast as possible. But it's still handy, especially when you need to, get a whole bunch of basic ore or whatever to start chunking up the factory. So yeah, it's an interesting beast. I don't know whether or not I'll stick around playing it. It does tickle my autism something wicked, so it could end up being a terribly dangerous time sink. One other interesting fact about it is that it can tell that I live in New Zealand and put all of the shop prices in New Zealand dollars. And actually, I don't think I wanted to know that. They're also higher than they would be if I were paying an offshore currency, which makes me very unhappy. But I just have to not buy anything, I guess. Or launder it through another country first somehow. But the Gacha really encourages the amateur money launderer in you if you live in a country with really weak currency like mine. But yeah, I don't know what the options will be for that. But things look really freaking expensive, like crazy expensive. It's like, I'd have to go without beer for 2 weeks to pay for that. You gotta be kidding me. Anyway, that's about all I've got to say about that. And I need to get something to moisten my throat so that you can, while you go and fill in the dead air with telling us about your week and your adventures in leading on multiple women.
Yeah. So this week, basically nothing in the Gacha world happened. I did not pay attention to it. Didn't do anything. And I just wanted to play the new Trails game. Busted out the new Dresden Files book during the grindy bits. I'm Fern may be poking at that too. May give some spoiler free impressions on that when I get further in the book. Um, but yeah, um, it's a continuation of the Calvert arc. Um, I have remained totally unspoiled on this one, but I do not know where we're going, and we'll be caught up with Japan and doing simultaneous releases from here on. Uh, I'm going to talk about a lot of problems. Not a lot of problems. A few shoes because it's Nisa doing the localization. But keep in mind everything about I'm about to say. I would rather have Nisa do it than Gunko. And Gunko are the ones doing the Sky games. Because oh boy. The Gunko people are illiterate. They cannot read. They have no love or history with the franchise, and they do not give a crap about keeping things consistent. And they call liberal and make every single voice actor say it. For the Nisa games, they call it liberal because it's written like liberal. It sounds like liberal. It's called liberal. And when it's referenced a few times in this game, they say it correctly, despite the Sky games just the remake for the first game just coming out not too long ago. I'll be interested to see if the backlash has been enough on Gunko that for Sky Second Chapter they stop calling it liberal.
I mean, did they get pushback or not? Is it just you? Are you like literally the only person in the world who objects?
There's like 20 Steam threads about it on the day of release. But that's the only feedback I saw. You gotta keep in mind, I don't do social media, so I don't know how big the pushback has been. But yeah, so we're continuing our adventures with Van and the crew, and its build is having 3 protagonists, but it's more like okay, we have Yunkafai here, so we gotta bring Green in because Yunkafai is the original founder of the Eight Leaves One Blade School that Reen, Cassius, and Arius are all students of, and Cassius is doing military stuff in Liberal right now, so and not a playable character, so we can't really bring him over. But Reen's a free agent and kind of ties in with the going to space stuff with his Divine Knight, so we'll bring him in. So he's here, but so far he's had 1 chapter. And I'm like, the chapters are not very long, but I'm like 10 chapters in. And he's had 1. I think I'll be coming up on a second one later, and that might be his only 2 chapters in the game. Reen is limited to a party of him, Optimal Bounce Vectors Boy, B, and who's the last one? Altina. And Toa's there too, because Toa became like the company mascot for the era of the Cold Steel games. So we can't not bring Toa with us. Also, while Fee has grown up, Toa, much to her chagrin, has not. Girl is still itty bitty. Because can't let the mascot girl grow up. That just be heresy. So yeah, our other protagonist is Kevin Graham, who, if you have played Sky Second Chapter, you will know of him. If you finish Sky Second Chapter, you're like, oh, that guy. And if you played Sky the Third, you're like, oh wow, they actually remembered he's a protagonist. Because Kevin kind of went MIA for a while, and in all the media that was coming out for a while during the Cold Steel era, they would just forget Kevin existed as and had his own game where he was the protagonist. And it wasn't a small game; it was a full mainline numbered entry. Like it's Sky the Third is Kevin's game. So they pulled Kevin out to come do Kevin things. And unfortunately for Kevin, they stuck him with the Goober Squad because he doesn't really have any connections in Calvert aside from Van, and Van's doing his own thing. So Kevin is with one of the former main antagonists who has escaped from prison from the Cold Steel art. Two of the in-game novel characters who became real characters in Reverie. One of which is a former assassin that is trying to get over his past trauma and is the straight man of the group, and the other one is a spoiled little pink-haired princess. Well, she acts like a princess. She's just a normal ass girl, but she is a drama queen like you wouldn't believe, and a literal doll that can somehow taste food and consume it and convert it into energy. The main villain of the Cold Steel arc, or one of them, that is in the Goober group, is now broke because they obviously seized all of his bank accounts. And I really like what they do at the start of it. They show him rolling up in a luxury car with Lapis, the doll, in tow. And they go to the most expensive hotel in Tharbad to meet up with Kevin and the two kids. And then he's like, right, so yeah, we don't actually get to stay here. I only had enough money to pay for a day visit. I didn't have enough money for a room. But you rolled up that expensive car. That was a rental. So he is broke, and the entire running gag is that he's so broke now that all his bank accounts have been seized after he was arrested. That he has to just make Kevin pay for everything.
Isn't he on a clergy salary?
The Gralschritter are very well funded because they have to do off the book heavy lifting for the church. You'll find out just how well resourced they are when you finally one day get around to finishing the second chapter. So it's good to see Kevin back, and they didn't forget about him. I like Kevin. I liked Kevin's story. I thought his whole story in Sky the Third was really good, and I'm a little sad we don't get to see his bestie Rufina, but I get the feeling they've kind of got her in the background. She may pop up later, either in this game or in a future game that focuses more on the church again. And his whole deal is the church is not just in the Trail series is not the typical evil church. They have legitimate reasons for doing what they do, and there is significant evidence that Adios actually for realsies exists, and the entire world is unified in this belief.
Oh, you have a new theory about who Ideas is.
Yeah, I was thinking they were hinting it was the Grandmaster of Ouroboros, but I think she may just be visiting as one of the enforcers of Ouroboros instead. So, a side plot in the game that has nothing to do with what Van's group's doing, or Reen's group's doing, or Kevin's doing, is the Grim Garden, which is this game's grindy dungeon area. I don't want to call it a roguelike, even though its floors are randomly generated, because there's no substance to the randomization. Literally does not matter. It's just to make it a little bit fresher if you decide to go in there and grind it again, so you can't totally snooze ball your way through it. But you just go in once per chapter and you can clear a floor and get the chapter rewards for it, or you can just run it over and over again to grind. It just gives you a place to always grind and then farm money and stuff, because the chapters take place mostly in cities and there's not a whole lot of space to go fight monsters there. And this is a digital space, much like it was in the Mansion Garden in Daybreak 2, where this version is much better than the Mansion Garden, although it's a very similar concept. Um, and basically, the Marduk company is like, "Hey, our system has been hacked by Ouroboros because reasons. We're not going to tell you why because we're not even really sure why. Or at least that's what we're telling you. And we need you to go liberate the system from the digital world by inhabiting digital avatars and beating up the enforcers and their minions that they've summoned inside of the domain. Okay, cool. We'll go save the computer world. Um, this allows Ouroboros to bust out their newest enforcer that I'm aware of, and that is Orica. The influencer is her title. Um, for for some reason, Adios decided that this girl just needs to have the ability to use what they call power words, which are just stupidly powerful enhancements or debuffs to whoever she wants. And the only reason, and they functionally have no limit, the only reason she isn't like a god tier power player is because that would be icky. Now, I don't think I'm illustrating this point very well. Let me just find a good one. I've got so many to pick from that I took screenshots of because I was flabbergasted the entire time. Okay, this will do. Uh, she might be the most Zoomer character I've ever seen in a video game. Zoomer streamer character in particular. I did not think I would ever see the word DILF in a Trails game, but here we are. And bless her voice actress's heart, she is trying so hard, and she does not know any of these words that are coming out of her mouth. And you can tell she does not know what any of these words that are coming out of her mouth mean. But, like, she clearly got coaching from somebody on how to play it right, but
Or somebody's kid.
yeah, like she gets the right tone, inflection, and oomph behind it, but occasionally she'll say one and just not say it right. But I mean, we're talking a whole lot of spoken hearts and oh, you're a real one for real, and talking about vibe maxing, like oh boy. I don't know what you call the emotion when you experience a zoomering so hard,
Called being old.
but I felt the need to document it. So I'll get y'all a video clip. I sent it to Vol of the English voice acting here. Only Ulrika's voiced in this clip because it's the characters aren't voiced for every scene, but Ulrika is. They made sure she's voiced in every scene. Most of the Ouroboros characters are always voiced whenever they show up because their appearances are so sporadic. Because they just didn't want to pay the headliner actors the salary that would incur for adding more to their line count. Uh, back when before Sean Chiplock was a known quantity voice actor, he would just do extra voices for Reen for free just because he liked the Trails games, and they would just stick him in there. It was one of the few good things Nisa did. It's kind of a tool now, but like he was a legitimate Trails fan, and he is back voicing Reen again. So at least it's done by somebody that cares about the character, even if that actor is a bit of a tool. Phoebe's getting buffaloed.
Why are you getting beefaloed?
Trying to talk and pick fights with beefalos. Ufalo is dead. So yeah, she's a trip, and is the first character to just straight up murder the fourth wall. Murders it so hard that even Altina's like, "Yep, and there goes the fourth wall. It's just gone." So yeah, we don't know what they're doing. The other Ouroboros Enforcer introduced is one that we've known existed as a while in number. We didn't know his title or his name, but he has a very busted power and is apparently one of the two the church worried about. They didn't worry about McBurn or Louvet or even Campanella. No. The one they worried about was uh, Weissman, who we met in Sky, and we saw why they were worried about him there. And this guy, Simeon. And his character is a lot of fun. He introduces himself in the main story, and he's also in the Grim Garden storyline. He pops up. But he's he shows up with his hat brim pulled all the way down, and he's one of the few enforcers that just will take any job an Anguis gives him, just because he has a sense of duty and responsibility after joining Ouroboros. He's not as flaky as the other ones, who will just outright refuse jobs if they don't want to. So if an Anguis asks him to do something, he's like, "All right, cool, we can do that." And his powers are genuinely terrifying. In that he can read the ley lines and history of the area he's in, and pull any creature or person that has ever been in that area at the point they were at in history, and make a simulacra of them fight for him. And that's just the tip of his powers abilities, apparently. This means he's pulling out final bosses, on a whim. He seems to have no upper limit on this.
Like Lost Civilization bullshit.
Well, it's so far he's limited it to things that the characters that are fighting it would know, or at least be aware of. But he just whips out the
Because
final
he has to, or because he feels like it?
because he feels like it. And he tries to play it off as though he's not really much of a fighter, and he just fights through his minions and is going to just leave after his first one is defeated. But then Reen with Boobies, who has been a recurring sub character in this arc, is like, "Nah, I could tell you're actually a lot scarier, aren't you?" And you just have to see this big, long, well choreographed, high production value scene of her going after him and trying to cut him down in Super Saiyan mode, and he's just casually deflecting it with what amounts to floating mirrors that he just manifests. He's like, "Nah." And he's still trying to play it off like he's just running away, and he's not that strong. So we'll figure out what his deal is later, presumably as I get deeper into the game. For sub-story stuff that isn't main story related, most of them are character resolutions to a bunch of old story arcs, or just continuations of the ones that were done for characters. But the big one was there was a very small lingering chance, and they didn't do this in the sub-story, actually. They did this in the intermission between Act 1 and 2. Where Agnes has had very strong appreciation for Van for everything he's done for her, and basically goes to him and just flat out tells him in a direct love confession that she's in love with him, and that's that. Now Agnes is almost 18, but she's still a teenager, and Van is just like, "Nah, sorry girl, I can't. And Agnes has been the female character with the most screen time, period. But they have gone. It should not surprise anybody, because they've spent the entire arc building Van up to be with Elaine, who is his high school sweetheart. That they separated after events in that had to do with Van's past at the time cropped up, and now they're getting more friendly with each other again. Now that time has passed and they're in their mid-20s, so it is the most clearly set up they're going to be married after this arc is over. Set up since Shara and Olivier, but they had apparently set up Agnes enough as a potential love interest to the community that they just felt the need to take a torpedo and sink that ship hard, so hard that it could never ever fix itself. So, and then if that wasn't bad enough, the writers also seemed to be just a little miffed that at the all the tropes they had to endure while writing Reen and doing the harem route garbage, because they just list off Agnes going on a like minute long woman moment after she gets rejected, of her wishing Van was just a jerk and would just get together with all the girls so they could all get together and murder him before she calms down. It's a
But has
very
she not met Reen?
she has not met Reen.
Maybe she will be a bit more forgiving of Van once she does.
Like Elaine is the only girl that has any shot with Van. Like there's one other girl that has kind of a puppy love for him, one of the exotic dancers from the not Saudi Arabia region. But that's not reciprocated in any way, shape, or form. And all the other girls are either strictly professional or goobers that he's taking care of.
What is he, Cloud Retainer?
Uh, he bemoans the fact that he has to constantly pick up new goobers to take care of as employees throughout the entirety of the first game when you're building up Arkwright Solutions. So yeah, that's the side stories. The main story, we're moving with light speed in this game to answering long-standing mysteries about this game. The biggest one that we found out is that the entirety of the Orbital Revolution and the big technological burst they've seen happen in Zemuria, going from effectively, typical high fantasy to a modern we have the internet and streamers over the course of 60 years, obviously didn't happen naturally. That was influenced because of one dude, the unfortunately named Professor Epstein. And these games have all been about his legacy and what he really did. And revelations throughout this game have heavily implied so far that the dude just straight up could see the future and time travel.
I can see the future.
Pretty much. And so he was already a brilliant engineer, but with knowledge of the future on top of being a brilliant engineer, he was able to leave designs and blueprints 40 years in the past from the point we're at now for his disciples to turn into the current ridiculous revolution the world's currently undergoing. And conspicuously, all of his notes stop on the year that we're currently at, which is 1209 in the Septian calendar. And there's a lot of emphasis put on another thing that McBurn, the first enforcer of Ouroboros, told us about in our last encounter with him in Cold Steel 4. That's where it was revealed that in Zemuria, you can't leave the continent. Like, not it's illegal, like, you literally physically can't. The rules
You just bounce off.
yeah, you will either be forcibly turned away or destroyed if you try. If you go sail off the edge of the world, your ship may get turned around, or you may literally sail off the edge of the world and never be seen again. And this is a secret the church keeps under wraps to stop people from going out for whatever reason about it. Presumably for safety. because they don't want people deciding to get adventurous and killing themselves. Well, the president of Calvard, Agnes's dad, has decided it's time to go to space. Guess what's not on the continent of Zemuria?
Space.
Yeah. And not only are we going to space, we're going to space and we're sending improved mech up there with combat capabilities for zero gravity. So he knows something that we don't, and it requires a combat mech going into space instead of just unmanned spacecraft. And everybody on
Is there
Reinstore.
any like international cooperation for this project, or is this like purely Calvert only?
This is Calvert only. They're going. The Reens group is here uh, because basically the intelligence agency in Erebonia coordinated with the CID to help them test the aircraft, and immediately they're suspicious of this crap because this is not on the up and up. Something's up with this. We don't know what everything's up with it, but we're about to find out. And it probably has to do with the as of yet unrevealed Septarian for Calvard, which is probably the one for time. Because we had Space's Septarian in Sky. You had Mirage's Septarian in the Crossbow games, and then you had Earth and Fire in the Erebonia games in the Cold Steel, and the Septarian has not made an appearance yet in this one, but it's presumed to be time based on all the time shenanigans going on, and that will likely be what we have to deal with when we go to space. So, not sure quite all what's going on with it yet, but we're starting to learn a lot about the history and get answers onto the world because the series is coming into its back end. Like they said, there'll be maybe one more arc after the Calvert arc, and then a finale, which will probably be 2 games, and then that'll be it for the Zemuria arc. And Trails' main story will be done, and they'll call it good. Which is fine. That's a large number of games with most of them decent stories. Green excluded. I would evangelize for the series more if I didn't have to get people through Cold Steel. Because not only is Cold Steel an older game series now, it's got Reen.
Maybe they could remake it with cutting some of the fat out.
It really just is a tumor having Reen need to. First problem with Reen's arc is Reen himself is not particularly interesting until much later in the arc, when agency gets taken away from him functionally and he gets turned into more of a plot device than a character. Then he's actually very interesting, but not as a character, as a piece of the setting. But and yeah, the other problem is the original Class 7 is like 14 kids that are dumped on you all at once, and you're going to be with these people for 4 games, and you need to learn all of them. And some of their stories and arcs are really good, but you got to do it through the lens of Reen, and this means anything with a pair of boobies needs to be able to be hit on.
Or head patted.
Or head patted. Van has adopted the hand-on head rest method of communicating with younger girls when he needs to reassure them, and it's only for reassurance, or helping them calm down and be the comforting, creepy uncle, sketchy guy. It's not the affectionate, loving head pat that Reen does. The incredibly
rude head pat of legend.
Yeah. In fact, Reen's very first bonding event you can do is with Fee, and they do some combat training out in the woods, and it ends with them resting on a park bench and Fee just tearing into him about his head pats and making him become the
What did he
head.
try? Did he try and head pat her, or has she just been simmering about this for an extended period of time?
She's just been mauling about this for years, and at the end of this bonding event, she just head pats him. It's like, yeah, how you like it? Pretty embarrassing, ain't it? So now I can only hear Fee's voice as Mualani in English.
I see.
Because
So you're expecting maracas any second.
I keep expecting to hear Maracas in a much more cheerful tone to her voice. She is a ex mercenary, child mercenary that
Is she the token deadpan?
she got set on the straight and narrow by her teacher in Erebonia and joined the Bracer Guild and is now a much more personable person. I guess because she had the most room to go somewhere, they felt that was also aware that would travel. And so the reason they bring Fee back, Fee was always popular. The damage girl that slowly gets better and more personable as the series goes on a slow burn over 4 games. I guess had a lot of draw, so they just keep bringing Fee back. But yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with everything. I don't really think of Trails writing in the same kind of judging terms I do with other media. It's very strange. I just like the characters in the world on a very surface level, and just will take anything it throws at me, even if it's stupid. Like, well, I'll complain about okay, they could have handled McBurn's arc in Cold Steel 4 a little better. They kind of rushed it to the end, or Reen being Reen. Like, these are things that at the end of the day, I still played these games and completed all of them because I just really like most of what's going on in the world. And I find the world very interesting.
They
And
are impediments to getting other people to play the marathon 4 games of Reen.
yeah, and they're longins. The Cold Steel games are definitely slow burns. Like every single one of them is going to end on a cliffhanger. Even though there's like a 3 year time jump between 2 and 3. I did. There was one with Rin, who you definitely met if you played the Sky Games. Little purple haired girl works for Ouroboros. Uh, she is not with Ouroboros anymore. After the events of Crossbell, she formally left, uh, and got adopted by Cassius. And there's another enforcer who was prominent. I think he actually does appear in the Sky Games as part of a side quest, the Phantom Thief Blue Blanc. You never meet him, but you do get to meet him in the Crossbell games and in the Erebonia arc. And because of what happens in the Erebonia arc, he disagrees enough with what Ouroboros' methods are for that particular thing, even though he still agrees with the Grandmaster overall. He goes on hiatus and just goes MIA. And you have a nice little scene between Rin and Van and them going over their past together, because after the Sky Games, Van's the one that finds her and helps her get back on her feet and sends her on her way. And they get led on a merry goose chase by a bunch of cryptic cards from a mysterious individual, and it was Blue Blanc, and he was just checking in on Rin and making sure she was okay, and it was really cute. So the Ouroboros crew, the ones that are not insane, do look after each other. It's always fun to see that happen.
I guess I don't know if they're evil or not, because everything they do seems evil, but the game doesn't seem to be interested in presenting them as evil most of the time.
Yeah, Ouroboros as an organization is the biggest mystery, in whatever they're doing because they're obviously going to be the key players at the end game of everything. Because they're in every single game as the ongoing antagonist. But the way they're structured is they have the Grandmaster, who is a purple-haired lady that looks conspicuously like Adios. They have the Anguisses, which do not have the same freedom the Enforcers do, but they are higher in rank and can command the Enforcers. But they have to do whatever the Grandmaster says. They can't turn down orders from the Grandmaster. Um, the Enforcers work for the Anguisses, but they are free to take or refuse any jobs they want and are only held loyal to Ouroboros because of their devotion to the Grandmaster. If the Anguisses get too far off their rocker, see the guy literally named Thousand Oathbreaker, they can just leave. At any time, and the Grandmaster won't stop them or hunt them down or anything. She is totally cool with this. So we don't know what their jig is because while they have the Thousand Oathbreaker, they also have Aryan Road, who is probably one of the most honorable characters in the franchise.
How do they recruit people if nobody knows what they're all about?
Well, to be an Anguish, you have to be personally scouted by the Grandmaster. To get brought in as an enforcer, you can either be scouted by an Anguis and recommended and approved by the Grandmaster, or you can apply basically to go through an Anguis's trials to be recommended to the Grandmaster. And we don't know why, but whatever the Grandmaster tells them, or whoever they realize she actually is enough for everybody that meets her to go, yeah, okay, we're gonna follow that one, and just not ask any questions. The only exception to that rule is Enforcer Zero Campanella, who I think you do meet in the Sky game. You definitely meet him in the third. I don't know if you meet him in first chapter or second chapter. But he is the only enforcer that has the same restrictions as an Anguis and has to just do what the Grandmaster tells him. He's also got a pink suit and green hair and looks like the Joker. So I'm interested to see where they go with it. I want to keep playing it. Wuwa and all Gacha will remain on hiatus until I get through it, probably. Um, and yeah, there's that. There's plenty to do whenever a Trails game comes out. There's a lot of side stories and a lot of bonus and optional content to do. Even though I've been
and fishing.
yeah, and fishing. Um, yeah, if you just want to do everything and see all the dialogue, because Falcom is autistic with their character writing, uh, you got to go ham on it, and just talk to everybody 300 times, and it takes a while. So yeah, interested to see where the world's going. Interested to see where all the characters are going. I like the new enforcers, kind of.
Ulrika?
Ulrika's problem is, I think, more her localization, because she does use Zoomer streamerisms for JP, like a JP streamer of the modern era would. But there had to be a more elegant way to translate that than just open Urban Dictionary up and Control F Zoomer.
It's like you don't need to use every Zoomer slang.
Oh
Like no
boy,
Zoomer uses all of the Zoomer slang.
for real, for real.
And there's multiple generations of Zoomers as well. And nobody uses cross generational slang. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
The real problem with it is that it's going to end up sounding extremely dated very quickly.
Yeah, I guess they didn't care so much because of the type of character that Orica is. That type of streamer will eventually, be replaced.
Well, the thing is that slang once upon a time used to cycle every decade, but now it cycles every 10 days. So a lot of that stuff is just going to become completely inscrutable before too long.
Yeah. But yeah, she's gonna tell you all about how we gotta stand for the small bean boys. And how much Bearguard is a DILF.
Does he actually have any children?
He's a member of the church. So no.
So, and not only did they just use whatever Zoomer slang was available, but they didn't bother to use the right Zoomer slang.
Yeah, Bergard has no kids. He is a former Gralsritter, same organization as Kevin. While they're not strictly speaking forbidden from having kids, it is stupidly rare for a member of the Gralsritter to get married.
Wrong lifestyle.
Yeah, that they are usually married to the job. Yeah. The other thing about the Trails universe, even if there are hiccups in its world building and you can poke holes in parts of it, there is just cataloged everything about pretty much any aspect of the world you want. And while some of it is off, a bunch of it is obfuscated to be revealed later, you can trust that they've got it written down somewhere and they'll sneak it in eventually. And you can find out what's what with just about anything in some side story or alternate universe door or what have you somewhere. This is so not going to hit. Oh, I think we got a direct hit.
I purposefully stood in such a way that you would be able to hit even if it went after me. So that once in a while you will deal some damage.
See those green numbers.
Grr.
I really wish they would take a second off of that jump cooldown.
Yeah, but then you'd be able to literally fly. It would have defeated the purpose.
Like if they added a second, took a second off of the initial jump cooldown, and added a second to the extended jump cooldown. Only take the second off when grounded. That'd be some really wacky spaghetti code, though. Right, we have an email. Because Trails was
right.
literally all I got. I'm not going to talk about Dresden right now. I'll wait till Fern has started on it, and then I'll talk about that. Most of it is just following up what happened in the last two books, which were kind of a huge event, uh, and resolving a few story arcs and setting up where some other ones are going to end, because we're apparently approaching the end of the series.
Okay.
Horrible.
We have an email. Dear No Excuses. As I have said, one of the best, if not the best, set of maps I have ever played is Death Wish for Blood. And while the modding community for Blood is much smaller than Doom and is spread around 3 source ports, the general quality of maps made tend to be a cut above what I see on the Doom World forums. What lies beneath is a partial conversion for Blood that gives Death Wish a run for its money. Non-linear secret maps from almost every level and an impeccable atmosphere, brought down by the usual crappiness of build engine combat. Still, I'd recommend trying it. I would also recommend trying the Quake 1 Brutalist Jam. Made standalone by using a custom engine with their own assets, you can now play 75 maps featuring nothing but grey concrete and sharp angles. And for a map set with a design containing somehow even less colours than the original Quake, I have to say most of these levels are mind-blowing. They are also very hard. And the usual gacha stuff. Columbina get, then I realised I didn't really have a team to slot her in. I guess having someone zapping so I can have Timu Luna charged. That and Lauma still blows the entire team up with her blooms. I also have somehow stumbled upon a Fallout shelter in Nodcry. Interesting experiment with the gameplay there. And finally, the most important lore reveal, quite possibly in 5 years, was in an item description. ZZZ. Sanbi get on the guaranteed banner, so I at least have something resembling a useful Electro team. Maybe. Seed plus Sanbi is most certainly not the way it's meant to be played, but she is still an upgrade over Archer Boy. HSR, nothing to see here. Still 2 weeks until 4.0. Also, Elation Blade, how? Woowa. Mornier and Augusta get, so now I have a healer for my Mono Fusion team, even if she is a healer for the Tune Break archetype, not the nuker. And I don't have a main DPS because Encore doesn't quite cut it for burst damage, but since I don't have Pirate Argenti, she will make do. Waifu Factorio, I'm playing it. That's about it. Still getting settled in, getting bamboozled by the fact that they have a 6-star system, so getting purple quality gear is actually just run-of-the-mill XP fodder. Haven't unlocked too much of the factory gameplay, still fumbling about with tier 1 equipment and trying to expand the build area. But the game so far is alright. Not quite sure why they thought a stripped down automation game is what the gacha scene needs, but here we are. Serathus.
The Sambi seed combo works just fine. It's not as good as
Isn't that the main team that you use with Seed?
yeah, like that there's a lot most people are focusing on the Orphe variants of those two teams, which are Sambi or
That
Seed.
never made sense to me because both Sanbi and Seed like being off field. Like Sanbi wants to be on field exactly 50% of the time, and Orphe wants to be off field like 75% of the time. So what do you do with the other 25% of the time?
Yeah, but no, Sambi and Seed works great together. I've used it all the time. Use it anytime there's an Electra thing, like Sambi Seed trigger.
That said, I still score better than you with Astra and Trigger and Sanbi.
Yeah, well, my Seed doesn't have her weapon, and
The
her gear
only
is
advantage
terrible.
of it, the only really real advantage is to put Astra elsewhere, really. But that seems to be what I end up building that team around. It's like, how can I move Astra somewhere else?
Eve has kidnapped Astra and is not letting anybody else near her. For my
Yeah,
recent
well, I mean,
teams,
she's the only swap support, really. So, um, I looked at the website for the Quake thing, and when I looked at it, I'm like, in what way is this Quake? Like, there are no Quake assets. There's no Quake engine. There's no Quake weapons. It's more sort of like a spiritual successor to Quake. That was my impression of it. I mean, I guess if you import like the basic schematics of Quake levels, you could put them in there since they've got analogs for most of the enemies. But yeah, it doesn't really look like Quake. Like I can sort of smell the Quake vibe coming off of it, although it doesn't have Nine Inch Nails music in the background, so questionable. But yeah. Um, the Fallout thing that he's talking about is the
the
thing that I
quest.
was referring to when I said the apocalyptic bunker thing. Um, I don't know what item description he's looking at. I haven't taken the time to look at any item descriptions. I very rarely do in Genshin because there's so many of them. I would never stop. I do read them in Star Rail, but not necessarily in Genshin.
So
Genshin is notorious though for putting most of its lore in the item descriptions as though they think they're a Souls game or something.
we don't have a Vadi video for the Genshin.
I'm sure somebody does it,
Uh, Probably.
but you would have to wade through 15 other videos for every one of people talking about how every character is gay. So,
Yeah. Vadi just autistically puts together a story and reads it to you from the item descriptions.
and if you want the same thing for Honkai, then you've got to go to Homu Lab and not understand anything he's saying. because
I,
his accent is so thick.
I can understand his words just fine. It's just very, very distracting.
So, Elation Blade. Well, I have a funny feeling a lot of this stuff is going to be tied into the core story because all of the marketing is about becoming Aha, not subscribing to the philosophy of Aha. So yeah, there's clearly a lot that we don't know there. I mean, Silverwolf is a perfect fit for Elation because Silverwolf is from Punk Lord, and all they're really interested in is entertainment there. So she's a perfect fit, but Blade maybe not so much. But I mean, the only thing he really wants is to die, right? But you know, if they choose to have him develop as a character over time, and I think that you know, Starro would benefit from that, from having them not just be one note characters that do one thing and are the same all the time, but actually have to wrestle with developing over time. Although it's sort of hard to see how you could do that with Blade specifically, since he's on the edge of Marastruck at all times. So if he changes, he'll probably lose his balance to turn into Marastruck. So, um, yeah. Mornier for a orthodox fire team, like you really need her first wave band to make that work, and then you can make it work. But it's not really ideal. It would have been better to just wait for a Shorekeeper rerun, but that could be a long time, so I can sort of understand the impulse. But it's not like Mornier is bad, but she's not better than Verena when used that way. The only thing that she has going for her in Serathis' context is the fact that she's fusion. But you should be ignoring the damage that comes out of a hard support anyway, because it's in 3 figures most of the time. I mean, sure, my Mornier can hit for 50,000 once in a while when the stars align, but you don't want to count on it because it's not going to happen very often. But yeah, there's not really a fusion nuker. Like people talk about fusion nukers because Looper sort of insists that there must be one, but there's just really not. Like Galbraina's not for nuking. Galbraina's for an archetype that's incomplete. You could use her in that capacity if you really wanted to, but I don't really feel like that's her natural home. It's sort of like where she's been stuck temporarily without any like if you were just going to build a fusion nuka team and you were just going to do it by hook or by crook, then yes, Galbraina would be who I would put at the top. And the main reason being that Changli is for quick swap. Pretty much. If you want to play autistic quick swap, then you use Changli. But other than that, there's only Encore. So you're left with Galbraina. And if you don't have Brent, well, don't know what you're going to do. Mornier is fine, I guess. Like, if I was absolutely committed to the idea of making a team around Looper, which was monofusion with a nuker at the end, then it would definitely be Mornier, Looper, Galbraina. But that's basically the only thing that you could put together. Unless you're going to pull Brant and play DPS Brant, that's also a thing that some people do because reasons. He's not good at that, but he's not appreciably worse than Changli, I guess. I'd say he's probably worse than Encore though. Like, if you were going to use Brant as a DPS in the DPS slot for a team where you've got Mornier and Looper, I would say that Brant probably will perform worse than Encore on balance in most contexts, like in like tower contexts. In Whimpering Wastes, he would definitely perform well, but only in Whimpering Wastes. He's got quite a bit of AoE in his kit because it's got a giant freaking anchor. But yeah, Encore can only really work when the situation happens to suit Encore. Her power is still good. Like, if you build and play Encore correctly, her output is still good. It's just that bringing it to bear is difficult because of her incredibly rigid timing restrictions. So if there are waves to deal with, she could just come up at the wrong time and be completely inappropriate for the situation.
Hmm.
So Yeah. Um, you could probably, if you really wanted to, you could jam Amith in there. But Amith is so obviously for 2 other builds, not just to be used as a fire beat stick, that it's probably not a great idea because everything in her kit is about applying stacks of things. It's not about just doing fusion damage up front. It's all about stack, 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 pop. And I don't know how well Lupa's buffs will mesh with that type of play. Whereas Galbrenna, rather than stacking things on the opponent, is about stacking resources on herself and then popping. So she's not as dependent on the mechanics of her interaction between herself and a particular enemy, meaning that she can carry her potential wherever she needs to go. Whereas if Ameth's enemy dies, all of her build-up is gone. So her flexibility is limited by that. So you're kind of putting all your eggs in an oddly shaped basket if you tried to use Ameth for that particular position. Ameth is very much designed to be used on a debuff style team, either along the off-tune mechanic or along the fusion burst mechanic. So I don't think that's very recommended. But I mean, all that could change because we don't know what she's going to look like on launch, and they have made a few swingy changes in the last beta push. So yeah, something could change as far as that's concerned, but if you just want to build a nuke team in the fusion archetype to take advantage of Lupa, I would say probably, at present, the best pinnacle DPS in the game for her is Galbrenna. The question is whether or not that's actually where Galbrenna will stay, or whether you want to sort of like maybe in the future build backwards out of Galbrenna towards an Echo archetype. I don't know. Maybe they will just decide that Galbrenna lives in the halfway house and will just conveniently forget about the Echo thing and just treat her as a nuker from now on. Like, if you look at the way her wave bands are built, from what I remember, they're just pretty much all multiplier emphases. Like, you can do this to make this multiplier go up, you can make this to make this multiplier go up, etc., etc. So the design is basically for a beat stick. It doesn't have that much of a future looking in it. If you can manage Galbrenna resource economy without needing echo support, then fine. Like, she'll do fine for that. But she doesn't have any unique synergies with Lupa other than being fusion. But if you have to pick a fusion character, she's going to be the best one. Like, she is like the leading fusion damage in endgame.
When
Pretty much just that's just the way it is.
when Galbrena came out, Lupa was the best sub DPS for her, even better than
I think she still is.
yeah. And also, I'm not reading all these white bands. Holy crap, words! Like talk about demonic
They're just
hypochondriacs and
They're just multipliers. It's just multipliers. As far as I remember, when I looked at them, they were just multipliers. Like, one of them is like the amount of resources of your initial forte bar that you spend turns into crit damage. Second wave band is just a bigger attack bonus for your whatchamacallit. I can't remember what that one. That was
whatever burning drive
it's
is.
I'm trying to
She
remember
has a
which one that
lot of
was, but
these.
it's part of her forte, but I don't remember what part of her forte it was because
Uh,
I read those so long ago.
There's like
But
eight, 9, 10 different attacks in here, or it keeps going.
but yeah, sequence 4 is always a meme, so we can skip sequence 4. Sequence 5 is damage multipliers again for her resonance skills, all of them. Sequence 6 is more damage multipliers for like everything basically. Yeah, so she's just basically designed from the top to bottom as a beat stick. The echo thing seems to be more or less for flavor at this stage. They could change that, but if they have like a really, really heavy echo push on Sagrika as a pinnacle DPS to a echo based team, then Galbrenna will probably slide into the background as the echo was for flavor because she eats them. Well, she eats TDs, but same thing. But yeah, well, it's sort of hard to say where that will go. But yeah, if you want a nuker Serethus, it's going to be Galbrenna. It's not going to be Ameth, I don't think, unless they just clown on themselves and make Ameth's base multipliers so bonkers high that it directly power creeps Galbrenna in her only niche, which I don't think they will do, but is not impossible, um,
Galbrain is
then
cooler
the
anyway.
Ameth won't be the pardon?
I was telling him Galbrain is cooler anyway.
Well, and the thing is that they're running them alongside each other, right? Because the first banner is Ameth, Chisa, no, Ameth, Chisa, and Lupa, and then the second one is Galbrenna and Luke. So you can't run Galbrenna after Ameth if Ameth directly power creeps Galbrenna because nobody will pull her. It wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
So from a commercial perspective, I think that you can infer if you look at the kit, you look at the team structure, you look at the order of character deployment, look at the history, look at the stats of people who have been successful in in-game, Galbrenna is still going to hold the crown for the character that you want to support as your peak DPS from Looper.
Yeah, I do not have an optimal sub DPS for her. I have more to V.
Mortifi is one of those characters who just kind of, well, he works. If you don't have somebody else, you're going to use Mortifi whether you like it or not.
Yeah, like I have Mortifi, and it was support by Z until I got Mornier, and you could, through much trial and error and finally getting the perfect execution run, make it work. If you've got Lupa to make her work and you build her out and learn how to play her properly, she's going to blow stuff up.
Yeah, I would say that Looper still remains strong. It's kind of weird that they're running her alongside Ameth as though you're going to use her with Ameth, but running her ahead of Galbrainer does make sense because if you have got some support of some kind and you pull Looper inside one and Galbrainer inside two, then you've got a Fusion Nuka team. It might not be optimal, but it'll be pretty close to optimal. But yeah, I don't see any way to really mesh Ameth with Looper unless Ameth's numbers are just bonkers at their base. But they've been steadily nerfing her, so they probably started with bonkers and are now trying to make sure that the gap between her and Luke is not too big. I think that they generally start with bonkers numbers for push characters, and then they tune them back to avoid breaking the game, which is why they always come out so powerful. But I don't think that they're going to be bonkers unless they try and make her very workable without any of her favored supports. And considering she's got like 3 options for favored support, being Chisa and Linnae and Mornier, trying to make her more flexible to just work with anybody would be basically driving her preferred supports to the point where she's going to be like triple S tier compared to everybody else. So, I mean, they could do it, but they've got a reasonably good track record for not breaking the game. Like, Cartathea is the most powerful output character throughout the history of the game up until the end of the 2.x series. I don't know if she's been surpassed yet by anybody, but it didn't actually throw the balance out of whack because she's definitely the most powerful, but it's not by a bonkers amount. It's just by a little bit, just a bit.
And that's with her
Like she,
her dedicated Chia pet.
yeah, if you've got your pet Giacona and you've got Aero Rover or Chisa on the team, some people say you can use Shorekeeper. I don't know whether or not you can. Then you're going to be doing the most damage of any team in 2.x. Period. End. But it's not by an amount that matters. It's not going to like, oh, this is going to give her an extra year's longevity compared to every other contemporaneous team. That's not really the case from what I've seen.
Like the Phoebe team can keep up with it just fine. If there is a difference, it's only at the academic theory craft upper level.
Phoebe is performing better than Cartathea on the current new endgame mode,
Yeah,
from what I've seen people saying. She's just better at it.
yeah. Zani just is better at bosses in general.
So basically the upshot of all of this is that there aren't too many wrong pulls in the game. as far as I can see. Like that, you can definitely pull a bad choice for your layout, but they haven't done any like, oh, we're just going to power creep this character out of relevance because we want people to buy a different one now. That doesn't seem to be the case. There are certainly some that have fallen by the wayside. Like Gigi doesn't have a use outside of Carlotta because Glacio apparently has been completely forgotten. Rochia is not popular. I don't think there's any any team build that prefers her at all.
There's one where it's a minor upgrade with Arlova, I think.
And Yinlin is a tragedy. But other than that, everybody still performs reasonably in their niche. Even Jian does. And it's been a long time since he came out, but he still performs more than adequately for most purposes, including an endgame. He's not going to be tier 0 or anything, but he's still performing good. Yunlin's just a tragedy. There's nothing to be done about that. But yeah, the generally speaking, the sort of vertical movement in power has not been too terribly high. It mainly shifts if there's like not enough applicable situations or not enough applicable supports or whatever. Like Yunlin's got it the worst. The only other ones that have really like fallen off are probably if you leave Yunlin and Rochia aside, probably. I don't think I've seen anybody talk about Changli teams or Camellia teams. They are very, very narrow in their applicability. They're both pretty much exclusively AoE characters, and their output is not high enough to compete with more modern ones in Whimpering Wastes, really. But what they're competing with in Whimpering Wastes seems to be kind of bonkers. Like, Frolova has always been the queen of Whimpering Wastes. Like, even the likes of, like, the perfect Cardathea team, the perfect Galbrina team, they can't scratch Frolova's performance in Whimpering Wastes. Not even close. So, yeah, just because a character appears to have fallen off for most applications doesn't really mean that they have fallen off in a meaningful way. Like, even like if I say Changli has fallen off, generally speaking, okay, yeah, she's fallen off a bit, sure, but she can still put out in a perfect scenario a comparable performance to a modern team in something like Whimpering Wastes. You expect a character like Changli to fall off viciously in something like Tower of Adversity, since she just can't put that much damage on a single target. That's just the way it is. It's like single target characters, like the early single target characters like Carlotta can still absolutely kick ass and take names in TOA, but they can't perform at all in Whimpering Waste. It's just like that. Characters have their niches, and they've managed to preserve those niches relatively well.
Or you could just be and be that ferret.
Is it a ferret or is it a lemur?
It's a lemur ferret.
Anyway, where are we going now? Where are the clouds in the sky?
The rain has started. Well, it's been going for about over an hour, actually.
But if it's liquid, it's still fine.
Let's go see. It's coming down pretty hard out there. And it is not making the normal rain sounds, so it's definitely starting to freeze.
I see.
If you've got any news topics, we can try and blitz them. Otherwise, probably wrap it.
I am trying to think if I actually saw anything that is worth talking about. My feed basically got replaced by Arknights this week past. It's basically all everybody is playing. The only thing I did see some little amusing newslets. Like, do you remember when they previewed the new Fable years ago, and the protagonist was that hideous woman?
Oh,
And it became a
yeah.
meme.
There's a
Well,
very faint memory
it
of
was
this.
it was received so badly that they basically went back to the drawing board and decided that okay, they weren't going to force you to play as a hideous brown girl boss after all. We'll put a character creator back in like Fable is supposed to have. And uh, I mean, I don't know. Did Fable have one in the past, or did you always play as sort of like a generic dude? I don't know. At any rate,
In
they
the
put out.
first game, it didn't have a character creator. I don't think. I think you were always just a generic dude. The second one did have. Might have been able to pick male or female. I don't know if it had a character
Yeah. At any rate, they've put a character creator back in, but you can tell that it is something that was jammed in at the last moment. And the reason you can tell is the walk loops that have been going around on preview media, because if you play a dude, it still has the female walk animations. So basically, he just sort of minces along with his swishy hips. It's really, really funny to watch.
creator.
But they're very they swear up and down that no, this is just the chuds saying that we were never going to force you to play as this character. No, they were 100% planning to force you to play as that character, and now that they've backed down on it, your alternative is this guy who minces along, swaying his hips from side to side because they couldn't be bothered doing more mocap. So, yeah, that's been going around this morning. I saw that this morning. It's quite entertaining. Um, trying to think. Does you see anything else that's worth mentioning? It hasn't. I haven't really seen anything. I'll just take a quick skim of some headlines and see if any of them remind me of something.
Keep your head is so
Uh,
floppy.
Grand Blue Versus is scaling back online features, huh? I
But
mean, it's had a good life cycle.
yeah, game lasted like 2.5, 3 years. For an anime fighter, that's really good. I like Grand Blue to death. I think it's been the most fun I've had playing a fighting game in a very long time.
Yeah, as of April 20, they're ending ranked matches, online lobby, etc. But
Maybe there'll be a
wow,
sequel. It did
Marathon is actually launching. I'm surprised they've got the balls to launch it at this point.
the death of Bungie.
But from what Sony have said, that they're planning to just try and recover the maximum fraction of costs. They don't expect to make any money off of it. But mm, mm, I don't think I can see anything else. I think that I've pretty much hit the limit on that. Did you see any news? Did you see any news, or have you just been living in the Tales universe for the past week?
Right now, I'm living in the Phoebe's floppy hat universe and just walk in to watch the hat flop.
Flop, flop.
I love that the attention to detail on the floppy hat.
They've actually upgraded a bunch of the animations to be more in line with the original intention in the next patch. Like, for instance, climbing stairs will not just be them walking up a stair-shaped slope. It will be actually animated such that the stairs are being climbed properly.
I see.
Yeah, a lot of fine details like that are being cleaned up in the next one. Um, lots of little details, like when you walk through in the snowy areas that are coming out next patch, if you like walk through the bushes that have snow settling on them, the snow will fall off the leaves and that sort of thing. Sort of thing to make your phone explode, if you play on a phone. That said, they also whatchamacallit, they also included more chipsets for phones in their eligible to settings to ultimate category, despite the fact that it already causes phones to catch a flame when you try and play on them. So you don't know who's going to be using that. Seems ambitious to me.
But I made a post in the video game thread about this before I got distracted by the zoomer about all the stuff Durante did when he made the PC port. Now the guy is legendary for his PC ports and just the if you want to do it, sure go ahead and just including every option and quality of life feature that you could ever want in PC games when he does it. So I'm always glad when he does the Trails games. Like he builds in the skip the logos at the start of the game, you know, the most common mod for every video game that's ever existed. And stuff like that. And but one of them in the intro cutscene, there is a big wheat like grassy wheat field. And he puts in the notes, okay, look, on 99% of rigs, there is just because of the way this wheat field is rendered with each individual blade of grass, it's just going to melt your graphics card for no reason whatsoever. So we have capped it in this one just to high settings for the foliage density here. After this scene, it goes back to normal. But if you really, really, really need to see all that grass for whatever reason, you go into the INI file and type in enable silly grass levels in this one line, or allow silly grain levels and set it to true. Because if you have a rig strong enough to render the grass at that level, you definitely know how to find the INI file.
Oh, I see.
And I'm just thinking of that with Wua. I'm like, oh no, they're gonna melt everybody. They have silly grain levels turned on by default.
So Cygames is releasing another DLC character for Versus Rising, who appears to be a side boob merchant. Are you going to go back for that one?
Who is it? I forget.
Ilsa.
Ilsa. Oh, that one. Depends on how she plays. I'm always up for poking more at Granblue. Anila is just fun to play. Charlotta is my favorite forever pure forever racist. Oh wow. Ilsa just straight up has artwork in one of her SSR versions in the Gacha games. She's just straight up naked.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not going to try and look for it. Goodness knows what I might find.
Yeah. Ilsa Yukata, second art on the wiki page. But yeah, I don't know anything about her character. I haven't been keeping up with the game lately. But yeah, I might poke at it once once she comes out. I do have the character pass, so I'll have her.
How long does that last? Will you just get all of them?
Yeah. There were two character passes. There was one that you got for buying the original game you could buy, and then when the second batch of characters started coming out, which was 6 characters, you could buy the pass for that too, and that was 6 or 7 characters, and it was like $15. So I just bought the whole pass.
I see. Sounds like the voice actress's voice was probably pretty raw by the end of that voice recording session. My goodness. She's shouting all the time. I still never got around to playing it. I don't think I will at this point. It's too old. There'll be too many good people.
It's the only fighting game where I've just been like, there's no need for training mode. I can just play matches forever and figure new crap out.
Yeah, the only characters I really like are the crazy girl who likes Katarina too much, and I was quite interested in Mud Mummy. She looked kind of interesting to play.
The caster grappler.
Well, you can't tell me that that's a bland archetype.
Yeah, no. Mud Mommy
Question
is
is whether it works or not.
it does, and it hurts. And then yeah, your Yandere girl is just the mix-up queen. Like the only girl that can they can keep up with her in the mix-up game is probably like Carlotta and Beatrice. Charlotta has the advantage of being so small. It's very hard to read her movements, and she's so fast. The trade-off for all this is her sword is very short. She is very short, but she is very fast. So you can just catch people by and nobody plays Charlotta. You can just catch people off guard. Show them how to be forever pure and forever racist. Mud Mommy just grabs you out of the air with anti-air grabs and throws you across the map, and then sets up traps everywhere, and then you get up to her and she grabs you again. The only character I didn't like playing against in that game was Cagliostros. The sweaty Cags were just the worst.
I didn't like any of the games that I saw with the little dragon thing. They just seemed like they were annoying. Like annoying fights. They never looked fun to me when I watched you playing against them. I don't remember what character
Oh,
it was.
Zooey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It never looked like a fun fight. It looked like a chore.
Zooey is about looking at your opponent and making sure they don't have Dragon Gauge, or if they do have Dragon Gauge, you make sure they can't use it. Because that dragon can cover a ton of the screen with just random bullcrap. Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of characters that I would get mad fighting Vayne's because Vayne hard countered Charlotta and would switch to the sheep whenever I kept getting bodied by one.
Did anybody play Pringles Man?
Nope, I ran into a few, but I get the feeling the people playing Pringles Man were only playing him because nobody played Pringles Man. Whenever I played Pringles Man, I'd run up into the same problem like people would run into playing me on Charlotta a lot was they just you don't know what Pringles Man does because you never see him. Nobody plays the Pringles Man. But yeah, I would be interested to try that game out again. Maybe I'll try and choke Ibu into running a few more sets in the lobbies with people before it shuts down for goodsies.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was talking about Grand Blue Versus, not Versus Rising in the first one that I covered.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, definitely that game needs to be shut.
It's 6 years old. I mean, let it rest.
Yeah, there was no sheep in the first one. I thought we were talking about Rising there. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they closed ranked because ranked has not been super populated lately. But
No, they've got two games of the same type contemporaneous and an infinitely long character roster to fill out. They're not going to shut down their contemporary one.
yeah, I thought they were killing ranked play in the current one. I'm like, well, I mean, I know ranked play's been kind of dead lately, but
No, there's no reason to not keep at least one of them open
yeah,
because somebody's going to go there and play it. And all they need to do is release some more booba every couple months, and people will come back.
yeah, but they keep trying to release penises.
Well, the thing is that there are much fewer fans for those characters, but those characters are exponentially thirstier to spend money on micropayments.
Sure. But I have my sheep and my pure racist.
At least Sonic Fox doesn't play it.
Certainly doesn't place in the tournaments if he does. Right. Drafenharven supremacy.
Right, we don't got any more.
I'm looking, I don't see anything. Alright. I'm going to go lose power, folks. I will catch y'all later.